Stop that. Stop that. Stop that. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the walking. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls let it tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the sheets. We came for one man, forget my peace. We take the west side, take on the east. I'ma put him in the cage, never let out the. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys. Man so tough when mans keep walking, yeah. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls, let it tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Stop that. Stop that. Stop that.
Happy Greg Cote Tuesday. We finally, after many years, have Stugotz paying a punishment. That punishment is sensual in nature. He has a towel he is whipping. He is Larry Bird. Mike Ryan, you remember this Larry Bird footage from a million years ago of him on the sidelines in his short shorts. Stugotz is rocking the short shorts. Looks sexy as hell. Thank you, Stugotz, for finally paying a penalty. Please put the towel away. You're going to knock over my coffee.
It's Larry.
I hate to do this, but as you know, I rule with an iron fist, and those are home whites. Larry did that in a white uniform, so this doesn't count.
Are you winded from whipping that towel, Stugotz? You sound a bit winded. Larry Bird didn't look great in that uniform. You look worse.
Yes, I am winded.
Okay.
Just trying to get my headsets in, Dano.
Yeah, the wig is wonderful.
I think it was the hip thrust. A couple of those hip thrusts, he was a little tired.
It was a little bit too much pelvic movement for my comfort, close to my ears and stuff. I believe, though, that I can now, and it hurts me to say this, I think I can call it. The Celtics have finished the Heat. That whole thing is over now. I don't think the Heat are going to rebound. You really sound winded.
I am winded. Mike finished the Heat, not the Celtics.
Well, I think I have this right. Is this stat correct? Since Udonis Haslem disrespected Bill Russell, since Spo signed an enormous contract, and since Mike Ryan said the Heat are good, they have not won a single game, and furthermore, have gotten slaughtered in all of them. It's not like they're losing close games. They're losing at home to Memphis. They're never in that game against Phoenix, and I don't know how to explain how Bam looked last night. Since they traded for Terry Rozier, they haven't won a game either. They look truly terrible. This is the longest losing streak of Eric Spoelstra's career, immediately after signing an 8-year, $120 million contract.
Yeah. 7 games in a row. They haven't lost 6 in a row since 2021. Obviously, they did go to the Eastern Conference Finals that year, but this has been a mess. Like, their offense looks totally disjointed. It hasn't gotten better with Terry Rozier in there, despite the fact that he played okay last night, obviously. But their defense has really been the biggest issue. You see guys getting beat off the point of attack, then they're scrambling to try to cover for the guys who typically are very good wing defenders, and they're leaving guys wide open for 3. There was a stat Ron Rothstein mentioned in the postgame show last night of paint touches for the other team versus the Miami Heat. When there's paint touches going for 3-point attempts during this 7-game losing streak, the opposing team is shooting 59%, while the Heat are shooting just 37%. So they're struggling from 3. They're struggling to move the ball. The guys aren't cutting the way that we're used to. It's been pretty dreadful over the last 7 games.
On the plus side, though, they did get under the luxury tax.
On the minus side, though, 21. Minus 21 when Terry Rozier was on the court.
That's 3 straight games of under 20.
Nurkic looked pretty good. For a throw-in in the deal that Miami didn't want.
I don't know what you do with the fact that they have stunk when their 3 guys are out there. They have been really bad. Tyler Hero is explaining after the game that he's going to change his game to be catch-and-shoot guy, and that's not ideal, but they haven't been very good when he's not just catch-and-shoot guy. It's going to take a minute to adapt to Terry Rozier, but I did not have them losing at Memphis and then just getting dragged by everybody. The Heat were a favorite in last night's game because Phoenix lost at Orlando the night before. Back-to-backs, teams come in here tired. Phoenix didn't look very tired last night.
Phoenix is I'm wondering if Phoenix is a team that we have to keep an eye on because
this sounds very sharp. This sounds,
what do you mean?
I don't know whether it's your voice or whether it's your mic.
I cleared it out, but I'm telling you that Phoenix might be a team that we should keep an eye on, Dan. They've been playing very well.
You just sound very loud. You sound unusually loud.
It's a bold stance by Stugotz to keep an eye on the team with Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal.
Yeah,
and Devin Booker.
I'm just saying they've won 8 of 10. They're the 6th seed right now in the Western Conference, and I'm wondering if the Phoenix Suns are a team that could win an NBA championship. In fact, I'm going to say it. I said yesterday that the Clippers are a team that are going to win the NBA championship. But if they don't, the Phoenix Suns will.
Are you just learning about the Suns?
Well, they're just getting healthy right now. They're just getting healthy. They got off to a shaky start.
I particularly don't
Larry
enjoy.
Bird. I know what I'm talking.
I don't enjoy playing the Phoenix Suns because they, more than any other team, represent the Miami Heat's greatest failings over the last few years, be it drafting Justice Winslow over Devin Booker, be it constantly missing out on Kevin Durant, be it you choose not to pursue Bradley Beal, be it that their new owner is constantly taking Mickey Arrison's lunch money. It's just a constant reminder of this franchise's failings over the last few years.
All right, all you naysayers, let me remind you about something. The Heat is the hardest working, best conditioned, most professional, unselfish, toughest, meanest, nastiest team in the NBA. Did you ever notice how Heat culture sounds a lot better when they're winning? Right now, Heat culture reminds me of when the Dolphins not only sucked, but were boring. And after every score, they would still play that song about, and we're talking Super Bowl because we're the... It seemed ridiculous then.
You should know the song better than that.
Yeah, I could sing the whole. I could sing the whole song.
Please do. Hold on, everybody, get out of the way.
Dan, at the time it was boring, so he was bored with the song.
Everybody, get out of the way, just so that you understand. Stugotz is saying keep an eye on the Suns. Devin Booker, before last night, was averaging 50 points a game in his last 3 games, and isn't their best player. Go ahead, Greg Cote, get us started with sing the whole song more correctly. Honor it. Respect the song, please.
Okay. I wish I had the lyrics in front of me. You're asking a lot here.
You just said you could sing the whole song.
I lied. Let me think, though. Okay. We take the ball from goal to goal like no one's ever seen. We're in the air, we're on the ground, we're always in control. And when you say Miami, you're talking Super Bowl, 'cause we're the Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins #1. Yes, we're the Miami. And the Heat should start playing that song at their games right now in the middle of a 7-game losing streak. The disappointment to me is that the Heat, among all the other disappointments of this season, they have no respite at home. They're 12-11 at home. It's not, and you play a back-to-back game at home and you don't win. There's nothing going right. It's the low point of Spoelstra's career. It's got to be.
Let's put up on the screen, please, by way of greeting and hello for Greg Cote, what Angel Resto painted him as a caricature.
He lost in the finals.
He did lose in the finals,
Twice.
But what he's saying is this is the worst stretch of his career.
Right.
Is what he's saying. Not this is the worst he's ever felt.
They were 11-30 in the first half of one season, and they had multiple 6-game losing streaks in that respect.
Right.
Obviously, this is 7. And it's bad because the expectations are a lot higher, but low point of his career is
I am willing to say that loss at home to Memphis is the lowest that Eric Spoelstra has felt at any time in his life. Now, let's put up the picture here of...
He just went through a divorce.
I know this. I'm aware of this.
Adding to the lowness.
That's correct. Thank you. Thank you. Making it even worse. That is correct. Here is the picture of Greg Cote, the rendering of Greg Cote. He looks particularly embalmed. He looks a bit angry. The eyebrows look just like wild shrubbery, and he looks 143 years old.
Right. Now, here's the thing about that caricature. That if I'm laying down in a casket, that's what I expect to look like. It's just it's me at age 85. My face is huge. My hair is really, really gray. The eyebrows. My wife's going to have me cremated, I'm sure. I'm going to burn at about 1,800 degrees in a tube, so I'll never be in a casket. But if I were, that would be the look.
Have you guys talked about this?
We have not. It's just an assumption. It's an assumption. I mean,
Why would you assume
Why are
that?
you? Yeah.
Well, it's a family tradition.
$5.
It's a family tradition. We
$5
have an
for
urn.
coughing right into the microphone.
Guy don't want to earn. Guy wants to earn.
That's right. You should request being burned at 1440. You know what I mean?
What?
To honor your
It
family.
would take longer. It would
But-
take a lot longer.
You'd appreciate it
It'd
more.
be a
I
slow
think.
burn.
Yeah.
You won't
Gotta
feel
want to learn. Gotta want to earn. I do want to earn.
And you want to burn.
Exactly.
Hell yeah.
Thank you.
Live in an urn.
I feel like Angel actually did you a service looking at that side by side.
Looks better.
Yeah,
Younger?
Yeah, the hair especially much fuller look, and
Well, I
you
mean-
actually have more liver spots than Angel accounted for.
Well, I see one under my right eye there. There's a little.
No, but
spot
he's
there.
saying you have, in actuality, more liver spots
Oh, I
on
do,
your
yeah.
actual face than
Yeah.
you do in the caricature.
Right. I'm a living man, a liver man.
That's right.
I see 4 of them right now.
Let's count. Let's count the liver
Oh, there's
spots.
a 5th. Yeah, how about
Okay,
that?
yeah. There's one big one here, and then like a little slurry of them over there. That's why I've started wearing makeup. I do my own makeup now. It's sad, but you go through that. You live and you learn, right? That kind of thing. But no, Angel. I love Angel Resto. He's super talented. He's the one who did the Greg Cote Show podcast logo, which I appreciated. Although it cost me a bunch of money, it's not like he did it for free. But no, he's really good. He's really, really good, and I appreciate that caricature. I really do.
Did you think it was worth the money, or like?
No, I did.
Once you saw it, you're like, oh.
Well, it's like maybe it might have been a little north of what I would have guessed he would have charged. But he's an artist. You're paying for talent. You're paying for an Angel Resto, so worth every penny of it. Truly.
What are we paying for on Tuesdays?
A Greg Cote.
Are you also
Greg Cote
winded
experience.
from watching Greg, from watching Stugotz do his towel thing?
I'm not winded at all. I mean, I've been on. I've been talking a lot, like the last minute and a half.
I think Greg's about to get a second wind. You know?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
So you didn't try to haggle at all, huh?
No, I'm not a big haggler. Marvin is, but I'm not a big haggler.
Leaving money on the table.
Marvelous.
Exactly. No, I don't haggle. That's why I was bad at swap meets. Back in the swap meet era, like some guys asking for 35 cents for an old record album. What am I going to try to talk them down to a quarter? It's more embarrassing for me to try to save a dime. But when Aunt Bonnie moved out of her house in Pembroke Pines, we had this massive yard sale.
This is not a flattering angle for Larry Bird.
The worst. Listen, retirement has not been good to me. I mean, it hasn't.
The hair, though. I mean, come on.
I can't look at myself,
green-
Dan.
the
Thank
gr-
you for pointing it out.
I mean,
though.
well, but it's right there.
Yeah.
I can't avoid it. It's
Jesus.
right on the screen. The green is not slimming.
I'm wearing a large, okay? I've been saying for a year now they're not making XLs like they used to make them. I now wear a double XL. This outfit, this costume is a large. This is dreadful, man. But it's a punishment, and I got to pay it off.
Historically accurate.
Well, what happened at Bonnie's garage sale, though?
Yeah,
before
that's
we
right.
strayed
Aunt
too
Bon.
far, yeah.
Well, it was a massive garage sale, and I experienced firsthand people trying to talk you down from an already ridiculously low thing. Like she had 3. She's a hoarder, Aunt Bonnie, and so at her garage sale she had like 3 or 4 beer can chicken things. The little wire with the beer can that you put it in the middle of a chicken cavity or a turkey cavity. So she's asking like $1 for each of those, and people are trying to talk you down to 50 cents. I don't get it. It's $1.
A penny saves a penny earned, Greg.
It's never been used. If you go to Target, it probably costs you $3.99 or whatever a typical price is. Always ends in 99 or 95, like gas, 99.99 or something. But so we had to, you go, no,
Just round
it's
it up, I
$1.
guess. Yeah.
Exactly. Charge me $4 a gallon, not $3.95.99.
If
Don't
you're
do
at
that.
99, will you go a little extra and just try to round it off?
Oh, that's a competition I play with myself.
right.
Yeah.
But then it goes over and you're at 501.
And then I got to go to 505.
Yeah.
I got to end
Well,
on a 0
Why
or
would
a
you add
5.
$4.
Yeah. No, I never end on a ragged number. It's always a 0 or a 5.
How are you with negotiating cars?
Now that I'll negotiate because you're talking about a real savings. You know, I once walked out of a Dodge dealer back in the days before we had kids. We're buying a Dodge Caravan.
I knew you were a Dodge man.
Well, we're buying a Dodge Caravan because kids are coming, so we needed a minivan. And we had arranged the deal, but I was still in negotiating mode. So I'm like, you got a deal if you throw in the upgrade floor mats, okay? That would have cost the dealership maybe a total of $175 or something to throw in those.
If that.
If that. He goes to see his manager. They wouldn't do it. Okay, I was calling his bluff, then he called my bluff, and much to my wife's dismay,
Over floor mats?
I got up and I walked out of that dealership. And I've never been back again.
Yeah.
I'm not going to name the dealership because I don't want to send business over there.
Isn't that a great feeling? Even though you leave without something that you need in a car, just getting up and walking out and saying, this deal's not going to happen because of me. Now, you then need to figure out a new car situation and go through the whole rigmarole elsewhere. But when you get up and you have that power telling the dealer, nope, and then they come chasing you down, you have to hold strong. You're not getting a car from that dealership. If they don't throw in those floor mats, you're not getting a car there.
Exactly.
Put it on the poll, please, Juju. Have you ever stormed out of a negotiation?
Never. Not at Williamson Cadillac. Williamson is Miami.
Tony, aren't you trying to buy a car now?
Dano, I'm the person that people call when they want to buy a car. So I love the car buying experience. Like, there is something so satiating to me to sit across from that car salesman and be like, I'm not paying that. I want you to know that. This is embarrassing. I'm embarrassed that you would bring this to me and ask me to pay this.
So your friends bring you in as a negotiator?
That's right. Lewis is going to buy a car soon. I'm going to do it with him, my wife, my brother, my brother-in-law, everybody.
Because they trust you to be the stoic ass who scares the guy who negotiates for a living.
Dan, the thing is, I'm a bit of a dork when it comes to the car buying experience. So I know things that the dealer's going to try to do to try and kind of give you the how's your uncle without really telling you, right? There's a couple things, residual, the cap cost, the money factor. There's things, especially when you're negotiating a lease, that you can look in where the dealership's going to try and hide money because they want it on the back end. Hey, yo. But if you know what you're looking for, you can get it and you'd be like, hey, this right here is absolutely not paying that. You need to come down.
Greg Cote wanted an explanation for, hey, how's your uncle? He was confused by that saying.
Oh, whoa. How's your uncle?
My wife prefers Stugotz.
Snug.
My wife prefers the bargain portion of the buying experience than getting whatever it is that she's actually getting. She will not buy something unless it is reduced from what she thinks it is worth. But Bud Grant, the late Bud Grant, told us how to handle all forms of haggling at when you're having some sort of sale in your house, whether it's a garage sale or anything else.
Take a walk.
That's how Bud Grant would do it anytime. We present him hypotheticals. It's for $1. Somebody tells you they're going to give you 99 cents. But how do you react to that?
Take a walk.
You have to. You got to draw the line.
I miss him.
Draw a hard line.
We all do.
Car buying is...
Bargains.
Ooh, sorry. Sorry about that, bud. Car buying is more about leverage than anything, right? If you can pit two dealerships against one another, you'll get exactly what you want at the price that you want.
There's nothing more powerful than saying, hey, dealership up the road's offering me this, and you guys are competing with them, right?
Right.
For my business, right?
Yeah.
And you're not going to match them. I'm just going to go over there. And they're like, whoa, wait a second. I think we can talk to the manager. The manager knows everything.
Yes.
Right? He's the person that's the brain of the operation.
They don't actually talk to the manager a lot of the time.
Of course they do. Of course they do, Billy.
No,
that's
they don't.
why I know
they just say, hey, I'm going to go talk to the manager. And then they go, they have a coffee,
Like
they drink
my
water
guy.
from the water
That's
fountain.
fine.
They come right back and they lower it.
Here's the thing. I'm going to make him do it.
Amount.
I'm going to make him do it 30 times. Like, he's going to go up and talk to that manager 30 times while I'm there.
I believe that when you go to a car dealership, they love it. They go, oh, this is one of those guys.
No, they love when you go there.
One of those guys.
No, they like to dance. Oh, this is one of those guys. We get to dance now. We're going to start out at some exorbitant price, some ridiculous price.
They do.
He's going to bring it down to what we were going to offer him anyways, if not a little more than we were going to offer him.
Yeah.
And he's going to think he gets a W. Then we'll throw in some floor mats, and everyone will be on their way.
No, so you don't get it, Billy.
They see you, and they're like, you know
No.
what this guy needs today? He needs a car, and he needs a win. And we're going to give him that win.
No.
But we're going to start so high so that his win is our win.
By the way, car prices are through the roof right now. If you're going to buy a car, they're very expensive. So 2 years ago during the pandemic, you could have gotten a car for a steal. The guy was telling me I was giving away cars during the pandemic. Okay,
There was a shortage. There was a shortage of cars. It was impossible to get a car 2 years ago.
Yes, new cars. Not the point. The point is, I'm going to make that guy go to the manager 30 different times. We're going to fight on the price, and at the end, he's going to say, "You got an employee discount, buddy. I don't know what to tell you."
Take a walk.
I couldn't be less like Tony in this regard. Like we're currently trying to buy a house, and we were talking with the seller and our real estate agent about possible prices on a roof because the roof needs to be redone, and they're only going to give us so much money, and our real estate agent's negotiating, and we wanted a certain number, and so our real estate agent said that he was willing to give up a certain amount on his commission to be able to reach that number. And I said to my wife, like, "Oh, well, you know, it's fine. We can do without that extra few grand because he's done a really good job." And she's like, "You're just going to give up a few $1,000?" And I was like, "Well, he's really nice."
Stugotz, this is true, and I don't even remember the details, but Stugotz thinks he's Tony, but is actually you, Jeremy, because he goes into the negotiations feeling like, I'm going to get them down, and then next thing you know, they're offering him less than they were before, and I've got a non-compete clause because he's negotiating the deal. Like
Yeah, that's right.
It's a strange thing. My father's the same way. My father has come home trying to negotiate a lower price for a mattress and ended up paying more than what the original price was. I don't understand how it is that they get discombobulated by the salespeople. But I want to get. You look like a golden girl, by the way, Stugotz. A golden girl with stubble is what you look like.
Thank you. I can't look at myself, Dan. So.
It's fun. The wig is amazing. The wig really, the wig and you showing that much skin on the arms really brings the whole thing together.
Before the show, for some reason, Dan, he was wearing his hat on top of the wig, and we were confused as to why he was doing that. And we were saying in this room that he looks like the middle-aged, like, adult in Spanish television that plays the role of a child, like an adolescent. Like the shows where it's all middle-aged adults playing 10-year-olds is what he looked like when he had that hat on. And we don't know why he had that hat on.
I always have the hat on.
He was trying to conceal how ridiculous he looks. He was trying to make it a
distractions.
little more normal. I was starting to say that I believe the Celtics-Heat rivalry is now over, and Udonis Haslem says it is not. On the OGs podcast with Mike Miller, here's what he's had to say last week about if he sees Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce in public.
My era, we used to hate the money that we used to have to go against and the rivalries and all that. To this day, you know what I'm saying? Y'all know how I feel when we got to play the Celtics. I can't stand them.
First of all,
and I have nothing against. And I have listen.
Hold on, man.
And the crazy thing about it,
can I tell a story about it in the huddle, man?
I like Tatum and I like Brown.
I would love for you to tell me. Can I tell a story about it in the huddle, man?
What? I like Tatum. I like Brown.
Nah,
old AG and Paul. I don't y'all. Y'all know that.
There it go.
It's cool.
There it go.
I don't fuck y'all. Y'all know that. I'm cool on that. The young generation, y'all can create y'all own beef and y'all can create y'all own whatever. The old motherfuckers already know. I see y'all in the grocery store. It's home.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And I don't care what aisle it is. It could be a 7-Eleven around the mother cheese dip. It's like whatever. All that flipped over.
Do you believe, put it on the poll, Juju, would Udonis Haslem fight Paul Pierce near the cheese dip in 7-Eleven? Yes or no?
Paul Pierce for sure. KG, I don't know so much, but Paul's been talking for a long time.
You're saying he would not fight KG?
I think there's a little bit more love between KG and OG than there is with OG and Paul Pierce.
A little bit of respect, at least, you would think.
Could you imagine turning on like ESPN or TMZ and it's just like Udonis Haslem and Kevin Garnett start fighting in the middle of a grocery store? The cause was they just didn't like each other from their playing days. Like, the idea is insane. They're both like very successful. They're business owners. Like, you can't just go and start fighting in the middle of a grocery store.
The 7-game losing streak makes you realize they really miss Udonis Haslem, huh? Invaluable in that locker room.
Mike Ryan, how do you feel presently about the state of your Miami Heat?
I had it wrong. They're not good. They are a play-in team. I said definitively, they're not a play-in team. They're
Stugotz, you know that Mike Ryan has ripped Carmelo Anthony a great deal recently. Got to a huge argument with Amin Al-Hassan about the relevance of Carmelo Anthony. Carmelo is mad because he is saying that the Nuggets gave Jokic his number in a petty move to erase Melo. And now Charles Barkley is saying of Jalen Brunson, he's making the Knicks more relevant than any time the Knicks have been since Patrick Ewing. So Charles Barkley is also erasing Carmelo Anthony. I want to just show you a picture of Charles Barkley here in studio, Stugotz, with Luka, because I don't think that the younger generation understands when they see Charles Barkley and hear a loudmouth that led the league in rebounding. Shorter than Luka. I've stood next to Charles. He's barely bigger than me. Now, his ass is around where my shoulders are. But Charles Barkley, look up some of the stats for me, Jeremy, the rebounding stats on Charles Barkley, because Pablo Torre joins us now. Pablo Torre Finds Out is his podcast. It's streaking up the charts. It's very popular. He's doing smarter stuff than most people. But what do you think there, Pablo, when you look at the photo of Charles Barkley standing next to Luka and looking so small next to Luka?
Yeah, I think that Charles Barkley needs to get someone to make one of those like highlight reels set to like modern rap music so kids can appreciate what he was. Because I'm just on the border, Dan. I was born in 85. But I remember like there are videos of Charles Barkley doing things that are genuinely jaw-dropping if you only know him as the guy who struggles to pick up his leg to fake karate kick Shaq. And this is just an example of how it is that he was overcoming people who were larger at his time, let alone in comparison to Luka, who's also shockingly tall, as a side note.
He averaged 12 rebounds a game for his career.
I mean, he led the league 1 year with 14 and a half rebounds per game. And again, he was barely 6'5", if he was 6'5". I'm not sure. I want to read to you guys a quote, and I want you to tell me who it is that it came from. Quote, "It's always a fast break when I have the ball." This is a quote from last night, actually. "It's always a fast break when I have the ball."
Josh Richardson.
Funnier than that. I've got something funnier than that.
For the other team,
I might know.
That's pretty funny.
Was it Ben Simmons?
It was Ben Simmons.
Oh, really? He's back?
In his first
You're
game back.
nuts. I mean,
in his first game back, he had 10, 11, and 8, and he announced his arrival for the Nets with, "It's always a fast break when I have the ball." It is.
But I'm not shooting.
Pablo, I know people have gotten tired of it, but I think it's one of the most fascinating stories in the sport, the mental short-circuiting of this player.
Yeah, look, I have been for a long time his foremost, I guess, surrogate on like sports talk, radio, and television, because I've always believed that Ben Simmons is mostly a flying car without a stereo. Like, he can do everything except for the thing where like I would like to listen to music now, and he just won't shoot or dunk or even just take shots that jeopardize his confidence. So the question for me, and I loved to see him back last night, almost getting a triple-double immediately. The question for me has always been just like, how aware is he of his shortcomings? And I think the infuriating part of Ben Simmons for so many people is that he refuses to admit that he has shortcomings. And that dynamic is so funny to me, even if it maybe is the only way you can cope with the fact that those shortcomings are obvious to literally everybody else.
He came out guns blazing last night, 5 of 5 from the field. I mean, that's a lot of shot attempts for Ben Simmons. Seriously.
That's a funny quote from him. I mean, you would think he would arrive quietly, and no, that's not the way he's arriving.
Wait, do people want him to just meekly? This is the thing I'm saying, though. Do people want him to meekly say, like, I want to just declare for everybody here that I suck and I have not played in a very long time, so please just be gentle on me as I try to humbly reinsert myself into the world of basketball? Or do you want him to be this character who actually was once upon a time, literally not so long ago, an all NBA caliber player?
It'd be great to see Ben Simmons back with a level of confidence. He said, "As soon as I checked in, I told them, you know what time it is." That's another quote from Ben Simmons last night.
I love this. I love this man. I am now being re-radicalized into why I rooted for him. Because he's trolling everybody, but also I think he just needs to say it to feel better about himself. Because he was the number 1 overall pick. Like, there's no other. He was hailed as the next LeBron, and of course he is not that. But man, that guy just needs to believe that he is still exactly the story that he tells himself to make himself feel better about himself.
Stugotz, Ariel Helwani, I believe to be one of the finest sports journalists working anywhere. He is honorable, he is fair, he is perspective rich, and he went on Pablo Torre Finds Out and gave up the stories of all of the different ways that Dana White tried to bully journalism, did successfully bully journalism out of the ESPN building. But before we get to that, Pablo, I just want to point out what the lane that Dana White is taking now versus the lane he took 10 years ago, because he's seen the lane that profits off of being a professional asshole. Look at this. This is just a couple of weeks ago. This is Dana White basically defending his middleweight champion for hate speech.
Dana, I just want to go back. You were talking about, like, you obviously give a long leash to your fighters about, what they can say when they are up there with the UFC microphone, and you are getting into territory of homophobia, transphobia. Like, is there...
I don't give anybody a leash.
Well, I'm saying you...
A leash?
I'm like...
Free speech. Gonna control what people say? Gonna tell people what to believe? Gonna tell people... I don't tell any other human being what to say, what to think, and there's no leashes on any of them. What is your question?
I was asking that question. I'll move on, though.
Yeah, probably a good idea. That's ridiculous to say I give somebody a leash. Free speech, brother. People can say whatever they want, and they can believe whatever they want. And I don't think there's any... We had two gay women who fought in the co-main event. They sat on the stage with Sean Strickland. They could give a what Sean Strickland thinks, or what he says, or what his beliefs are, or what his opinions are. You know what I mean?
So that was recently, but here's Dana White 10 years ago, and the tone is different when he is, I believe it was Matt, was he talking about Matt Mitrione, some things that were said that he was not at all down with? This is 10 years ago.
I know that there was a lot of talk, free Mitrione and all this stuff with the fans, and it's freedom of speech and all this stuff. That's absolutely ridiculous. Work at any company anywhere in America and go out and say ignorant, stupid stuff publicly. Even on top of that, say it publicly in a big, place where people can go read it or hear it publicly and see what happens to you. And it's like, oh, we agree with what Mitrione said. Well, you can agree with what Mitrione said. If that was something that he really felt strongly about, and he said, I want to speak up, I want to be heard about this because I don't believe, and I don't disagree with everything that he said. So it's not that he didn't have a point. It was how he said it. The extra things that he said. And if he was standing in front of a panel, okay, and he was going up to speak on this subject, he wouldn't have said the things that he said, and he would have said it differently. There's a way to voice your opinion without sounding like a bigot. You know what I mean? And he came off sounding like a complete jackass and a bigot. And that kind of stuff isn't going to be tolerated. The other thing was, I used the F word, and we're not talking about here. And I grew up in the 80s. Used to use that word all the time. So when that happened, I am the furthest thing. I know I might look like one. The big bald dude from the UFC probably is a homophobe. I'm the furthest thing from it.
Pablo?
Yeah, first off, that sort of musical bed underneath is what I want Barkley to get from the kids today. Like, there's a beat about to drop. I want that sort of thematic effort in proving that Barkley is actually an all-time great athlete. But about Dana White, it's very funny to me, right? Like, there's a unifying theory of Dana White that Ariel walked me through, because Ariel was the guy interviewing Matt Mitrione. He was the guy interviewing Dana White, asking about punishments. And that's the sort of thing that Dana White was doing when he wanted to sell UFC to the mainstream before 2016. And why did that matter? It's because they didn't have a deal with Disney and ESPN yet. Dana White knew exactly what the households across America were wanting from the UFC, which is to say, clean it up. We don't say that stuff here. That stuff is bigoted. It's awful. Like, respectable society won't allow that. And then 2016 happens, fill in the giant blank as to what happened in 2016. But you know what happened. Dana White spoke at the Republican National Convention. And then suddenly he's realizing, wait a minute, there's a massive pivot I can make here for the same reason I was punishing this speech before, which is money. which is profit. And so it's remarkable. Look, it's remarkable that Dana White, because of that leash back and forth, by the way, which was incredible. And Ariel does a great job on my show breaking down why it was a masterclass in basically vivisecting a journalist. Dana White, off of that, has become, I would say, the foremost champion of free speech, certainly in American sports, and it's on the path to being the foremost champion of free speech in American life, right? Dana White is saying, free speech, comma, brother. That's the only policy I have. Now, was it the case 10 years ago, 5 years ago? Not in that same way. But now, Dan, all I'm pointing out is that I don't think it's plausible to be the foremost free speech absolutist in America when the thing you're really protecting is money. And ask Ariel Helwani about how his freedom of speech was treated by Dana White as the counterpoint to what it is that Dana White really cares about when it comes to protecting his business.
We have less than a minute left, but for those who have not seen or heard the podcast, tell us the best of what Ariel told you, because I've heard some of the stories, and I don't think he's told them all publicly. It was really bad. I experienced some of them with him at ESPN. It was really bad. He has not said everything that happened there.
No. Look, the point here is very simple. It's not about canceling Dana White. It's not about moralizing. It's simply about free speech, in theory, is about not just protecting the speech that makes you money. It's about protecting the speech that makes you uncomfortable. And so Ariel Helwani not only breaks stories about, Brock Lesnar is going to come back and fight, he breaks stories about fighter pay, about treatment of the employees who are not employees or independent contractors at the UFC. And so when Ariel Helwani left ESPN, he got a text from an unknown number that he says was Dana White. And it was mocking. It was, I told you I was going to get rid of you. It's about how he got banned from covering UFC for 48 hours famously. And Dana White told him, Lorenzo Fertitta, he put a bullet in your head. It's about Ariel saying he fully believes that, and he said this on the show, that if he walked out of our studio and got hit by a bus, that Dana White would cheer. And so it's about this thing that we see now, right? Forget stick to sports. That's over. Now it's say whatever you want, as long as I could plausibly claim that I'm in favor of freedom when really I'm in favor of making money. It's a story about America and our politics now, and Dana White happens to be the center of a Venn diagram that is both very funny when you see what he used to be, but also actually ridiculous to suggest genuine when it comes to his policy and his standards.
Pablo Torre finds out all of the interesting things. He is following his curiosities to the end of the earth.
Then what?
Pablo Torre finds out is the name of the podcast.
My favorite part of that segment was Greg's lone contribution of hitting the microphone with his thermos.
Yes, mine too.
How'd that turn out?
Thanks, Greg.
We do have a lot of things to get to. Stugotz hasn't just discovered that the Suns might be good, but he's also discovered that Shannon Sharpe is good at the take.
Yes.
And he has discovered as well that Tom Brady is sharpening the take, trying to get better at the take. It is not a strength. We will get to that in a moment. Greg Cote has a lot of thoughts on eggs that we have to get to. It's all he brought in today. When he was asked if he had any thoughts on anything, all he brought in was the proper way to eat eggs. And we'll get to that in just a second. Again.
Other than all the other stuff on my list,
like hitting the microphone with your thermos while we were talking to Pablo Torre.
I checked that off as soon as that happened.
Right. He also has day-old football takes. He's got a lot of those that he wants to get to. So it's not just eggs. It's also the expiration date on some of these takes it's expired, but he wants to get them off anyway.
Okay, so let me get this straight. The Super Bowl is in 10 days, but it's already a dead topic. Like, you can't talk about a Super Bowl that's happening February 11th. Because you didn't talk about it yesterday.
I don't think you want to talk about the Super Bowl. You want to talk about the games that we already talked about on Sunday night and Monday morning.
Well, it's because what Dan Campbell did is rob America of the Super Bowl that America wanted, which is Detroit in it. Dan Campbell, he kneecapped his own team. He made two decisions in the fourth quarter that literally cost them the Super Bowl.
So this is you previewing the Super Bowl, right?
These
are not reheated takes from 2 days ago.
I think Greg is upset because he feels like the better matchup would have been Kansas City and Detroit.
Right.
He would have preferred to see that, and he's right. Dan Campbell robbed us of that opportunity. Tom Brady agrees.
Right. Baltimore and Detroit would have been the ideal Super Bowl. And Lamar Jackson failed, but that's fine. That's what he does, apparently, in the playoffs. But Dan Campbell, his macho...
You're previewing the Super Bowl by
ridiculous.
talking about all of the people and players that aren't in the Super Bowl.
No, he's previewing his preview of the Super Bowl. He hasn't gotten to the points yet. He's just telling us what they will be.
That's correct.
The Ravens did beat the hell out of the Lions earlier in the season, but you
Right.
still wanted to see a rematch of that in the Super Bowl?
I did. And because of wishful bets, I think there's a chance Detroit might have actually been favored. Because by then they would have been, the team of destiny and all that bullshit.
No, they would not have been favored.
I think they might have been. A lot of people place wishful bets.
We'll never know because Dan Campbell ruined it.
Well, hold on a second, because the Niners are favored, and so if Detroit beats San Francisco in San Francisco,
Will
you don't think maybe
Detroit
a 1-point favorite?
Detroit was a 7-point dog at San Francisco. They weren't going to be a favorite against Baltimore.
Well, you don't know that, do you?
No, I do know that.
Do you?
I know that as much as I know anything I've ever known.
No
You don't
way to
know
know
that.
that. Yeah,
There's betting trends. That's why the
There is
Jets
a way to know that.
We'll never know.
The Jets and the Giants are always over bet. Their lines are always off by a point or two because of wishful bets. Americans who never bet would have bet on the Lions just because they hoped it happened.
You don't,
Greg ain't lying.
You don't
I'm not lying.
understand how.
Like The Pride of a Lion, the book that you can get anywhere now, including Amazon.
Well done.
But I'm not lying about this. The Detroit Lions, because of wishful bets from one-time bettors, might have been favored over Baltimore.
You should have led with eggs.
Could you imagine how great that would have been for business, Dan, for Greg? The Lions make the Super Bowl. People say, you know what, Lions, that's an interesting animal. I want to know more about lions.
That's right.
What's this?
That's exactly right.
Pride of a Lion?
I
A brand new book?
heard Stugotz saying that what he wants to do in Vegas next week is take Greg Cote along Radio Row with that book and just force him on Nasty Nestor on morning radio in Baltimore and force Greg Cote upon an assortment of radio enterprises.
I want to be his handler. I want to walk Greg through Radio Row. I know where all the tables are set up. I know who is sitting where because I am the mayor of Radio Row. They send me the table diagrams before the people even know where it is they're sitting. So I know where all the big shows are set up. I have access to all the big shows. I would like to walk Greg around Radio Row, and I will get him on every radio show in America.
We have to do this.
Yes.
Well, the key to that is what Stugotz is saying is he needs a handler, if not two handlers. You need some sort of commotion, hubbub around him, and then people will be coming to you saying, who's that? Oh, who's that? Who's that? Oh, that's Greg Cote from the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz. Oh, that's Greg Cote from the Greg Cote Show with Greg Cote. And then that's how you get him on the shows. You need a hubbub around him. You need like almost like the Pigpen from Peanuts, how he has that smoke cloud around him. That's what Greg needs at Radio Row.
We've effectively done this before in the past because Roy had a resemblance to Terrell Owens at the time. We just had a bunch of people walking around Roy, and we convinced everyone around us that he was actually T.O., and then we sat him down next to Ryan Howard and Jared Fogle of Subway, which was very unfortunate in retrospect.
Wow. That did not age well, that bit.
The hypothetical line provided by DraftKings on Baltimore-Detroit is Baltimore favored by 3.5. So
That's all, huh?
We do know.
Not 7.
Well, you don't know. It's a hypothetical.
Right,
You don't know reality.
They
What's
just
the line
made
at
that
kickoff,
up.
right?
What do they know?
Mm-hmm.
DraftKings?
Yeah. I mean, what does anybody know? I meant to say.
Yeah.
DraftKings knows more than
That's right
most.
about that.
Don't
Kick,
get me
save, and a
wrong.
Butte.
I mean, if anybody knows, it's DraftKings, but nobody knows. Nobody knows. And wishful, you never heard the theory of wishful betting?
They
The
set
crown
the
is
betting
yours.
Lines. They said when the people who set the betting
That
lines.
actually counts as a live read, I think. Promo code Dan.
And betting
DraftKings,
lines
the crown is
move.
yours.
You may not have noticed betting lines move.
Well said.
Not
yes.
3.5 points. They don't.
No,
Sometimes
but they
they-
set
how
the
about if-
line. The public decides.
Right. If a quarterback is injured, it moves 3.5.
Can we
points.
go with
If
eggs?
a quarterback's injured,
Just
okay.
want eggs.
So now it's moved to well, if Lamar Jackson was hurt,
Correct.
then maybe Detroit
You
would
started
Yeah.
the hypothetical
Thank you.
game. I mean, if you open the hypothetical door, we're going to
Am I wrong?
You have a known thing in eggs that would deliver.
Eggs are incredible, huh?
The incredible egg.
Who's the first person that saw it and thought, you know what? I want that in my mouth.
Well, was it the chicken? Who knows?
Greg, what is the proper way to eat the eggs the way that you were talking about eating them?
We're talking about a fried egg. You know, there's a million different ways you can make eggs, obviously. The fried egg requires you to crack the shell just perfectly. It's all in the shell cracking with a fried egg. But what I was wondering is, I have a particular way of eating a fried egg. And I like the fried egg I like that yolk runny. But the way I eat a fried egg, and this is out of curiosity, I'm asking if others do the same. I eat around the yolk. I eat all the white of the egg first. And you have to be as delicate as a surgeon.
No yellow? No yolk.
Let me finish.
Let him cook, Dan. Let him cook.
You have to be as delicate
fry.
as a surgeon to get around that yolk without breaking it. If you nick the yolk and the yellow starts running, the entire thing is ruined. So what you do is you carefully eat around, you eat all the white, and at the end what you have is a giant yellow eye alone on the plate staring at you, the yolk of the egg. And then you take your triangle of toast, the sharp point, you jab it gently right in the middle of the eye. The eye starts oozing yellow gold. The best. And then you dip the toast in it, and that's when your egg comes alive. The white is superfluous. The white is superfluous. People who eat these white omelets and no yolk in the omelet, forget about that. The egg does its work when you get to the yolk, and that's how to eat a fried egg. But I'm curious if I'm alone on that or if other people do that.
I should have started
Well
with
done.
eggs.
Yep.
Way to go, Greg.
Do other people do that?
No, that was beautiful.
Do you really?
Well done, man.
That was really well done with the eggs.
Bon
Yeah.
pan total.
Are you
I'm gonna
serious?
try it that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
I actually really like the yolk, and I like it when the yolk goes over the egg white. And you don't like to mix the two flavors,
No.
but I'm gonna try it your way because of
should.
how beautifully you put that.
It is liquid gold. I'm telling you. It is
The
liquid
problem
gold.
with that
He's
is,
not yoking. You were saying?
The problem with that is that when you're eating the egg whites, you're getting no flavor. You're waiting for the payoff, and all you're doing is eating egg whites that are so dry that I'd prefer just a little yellow in the egg whites to give it a little bit of flavor, so I don't feel like I'm just eating printed paper.
Well, cook your eggs better, number one. Number two, you salt and pepper the yellow. The
exactly
yellow
right,
doesn't
Greg.
need salt and pepper.
No.
Let's get that straight.
Liquid gold.
The white does. You carefully salt and pepper around the yolk, and that way the white of the egg is not a pleasurable experience like the yolk, but more than tolerable, because you know what? You know you're getting to the yolk. You know, it's like you're mining for gold.
It's a slow build-up, Dan. It's foreplay.
It
Egg
is. That's
foreplay.
exactly what it is. It's a sexual experience in the breakfast table.
Dan, I know you've done it with pan con mantequilla, where you wait for that last drop and then you hit it with the. Oh my God, so good.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's the best thing in cuisine. It really is. The yolk of an egg.
Well, you guys tell me, as Cubans there in the back row.
That's me honoring the chicken. That's the sound of a chicken. And when I eat an egg yolk, I have mad respect for the person who laid it.
Do you think the chickens are proud? Like when you eat an egg and you enjoy it, the chicken views it as like the chicken's the chef of this egg and is proud to serve you this meal.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. It's a wonderful thing. And the chickens act proud. I don't know if you've ever watched chickens.
Certain struts sometimes.
Yeah,
they lay the egg.
They
and then
saunter
they
through
do
the
a strut.
farmyard. They're going, badap. You know, they're like very. Yeah, they're the cock of the walk. You know.
Well, they're not. They're
Well, but they're like that. They're, all poultry walk like. Even turkeys, you know, with the big thing, the big red thing. They're walking around. They have no idea they're about to have their head chopped off. They're oblivious. But until they die,
But a proud
horrible
bird.
death, they're a proud bird.
a proud bird.
And they show it, unlike some animals.
Yeah.
They show it.
Yeah.
What I was going to ask the back row is, what do you imagine is better to dip your pan con mantequilla in, the yolk or café con leche?
Hey, you want some pasta and seafood dishes with fresh fish?
You split the baby in two. You have one pan that
No,
you put in
gotta
the
pick
egg,
one.
and then you
Pick
put salt
one.
on them.
Pick one, you coward.
Café con leche.
Tony is trying to get my attention subliminally with his things to ponder file. We will get to that at some point. But Ron Magill joins us as he has our longest standing guest, I believe, certainly our longest standing regular guest, The Pride of a Lion, the book that he did with Greg Cote, continues to be a bestseller on some very obscure lists. You can get it wherever it is that you get your books. I want to start, though, Ron, with the rhino beetle this week, because I was sent some video from a listener showing me that the rhino beetle can somehow lift about 850 times its weight. We have talked very often about some of the things in the animal kingdom that have more power than you would expect. So give me an idea of how rare the strength of the rhino beetle is here, and how many animals or insects of any kind you would put up against it in a test of strength.
Well, it's incredibly powerful, of course, but a lot of invertebrates, ants are a classic example of these invertebrates that can pick up so much more than their own weight. I mean, hundreds of times. I don't know if it's 800 times like the rhino beetle. I don't have the exact stat, but ants are notorious for their ability to pick up some major weight. But the rhino beetle is, it's a tank. It's a tank of an insect. It's got a huge, very, very hard ectoskeleton. So it is probably the Arnold Schwarzenegger of the insect world.
What else would you put in there outside of the insect world? Things that might surprise us, animals who might surprise us with their strength.
Look at leopards. Look at what a leopard could bring up a tree. I've seen a leopard bring up almost a full-grown, half-grown wildebeest up a tree, something that weighs twice as much as the leopard, literally grab it by its neck and climb up a tree with its legs, holding this thing in its mouth, dragging it up to the top of the tree. I've seen leopards drag things up into trees that I'm going, this is unbelievable. So they're an incredibly powerful animal.
Ron, bullfighting is back in Mexico after
I saw that.
after being disallowed for 2 years. And Humane Society International refers to the bulls suffering from a protracted death tantamount to torture in the bullfighting arena. My question, why isn't there any sort of international advocacy for animals that reach the legal level? Like, why isn't something like that illegal?
It is in this country. It all depends on the country's laws, and that's where you get into international law, and you have to be very, very careful. I think countries are incredibly wary of someone else telling them what to do in their own home. The objective here is to try to just change the culture. And I mean, Mexico was on its way, and it started to outlaw bullfighting in several of its states. But there's still that old traditional culture. And unfortunately, I think that is going to have to wait until those generations die off. If you go to these bullfights, you'll see that the majority of the people there are, fairly elderly in age, as far as they're not the teenagers, the young people as much. There are a lot of older people, and that generation just has to kind of, God, I hate to say it this way, die off. I mean, that mentality has to die off.
Can you guys in video please put up for me this elephant video of an elephant with its trunk tearing down a tree? I know you've talked before about the strength of the elephant and the strength of the elephant's trunk, but this video, walk us through it, Ron.
Yeah, elephants will knock down trees because they love to eat the bark. They love to eat the pulp of wood. They also love to eat the trees. So this elephant, and I've seen this also with actually trees bigger than that, where a big bull will go in there and knock the whole thing down. And what it does is it provides itself with a buffet. They're incredibly intelligent animals. I've also seen them go and shake trees, like the marula tree has a marula fruit on it. And they'll go up there and they'll shake these trees and all the fruits fall off. And it's wonderful. Again, the elephant is one of the most intelligent animals on earth, incredibly powerful animal. So they use that strength to their benefit, which in that case is to knock down a big smorgasbord.
I'm going to put up here some elephant porn now because it's just elephants having sex, like really going at it. What percentage of elephants, because this is difficult to do, it's a difficult act, what percentage of elephants go through their entire life without ever having sex, Ron?
I couldn't give you an exact number, Dan, but I would think that the majority are going to be males that don't have the sex, because males will fight with each other to have the territory. So unless he's able to escape, do we have to keep showing this over and over? But you're not showing.
Yes, Ron. Yes, we do.
The most incredible part of elephant sex is actually the elephant penis itself. It's like a fire hose. That thing comes out, and the elephant just mounts the female, and the penis does all the work. I mean, it swings around like a fire hose. You tie it to a fire hydrant, let it go, and that's what it looks like. It's just woo, 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 looking for that opening. And when it finds the opening, then it does all the work itself. But it's pretty incredible to watch. I mean, that thing is like a fifth appendage. It's pretty impressive.
Well, you've told me before that the rhinos, all of this is painful, right? Because the animal that is on top is so heavy that it's going to hurt the other animal's back.
Well, generally speaking, yes. And elephants, especially the bulls, are much bigger than the cows. They, generally speaking, have no more than usually about 30 seconds on the top of the female before she can no longer withstand his weight. Now, with rhinos, it's a little different because males and females are very similar in size. I've seen a female rhino carry a male on her back around for an hour at a time, with the male ejaculating every 2 to 5 minutes without even doing any kind of pelvic thrusting, because the vaginal walls of the female, well, of course, it's got to be a female rhino, just kind of do all the work. The male just stays up there, and all of a sudden, every 2 to 5 minutes, he does this shudder type thing. I don't think he's faking it for her. And that's when he's ejaculating. And you'll see all this white. I can't believe I'm talking about this on this show because her kids.
Ron, you ever watch any videos
It's
of
science.
animals mating and take some notes, learn some tricks? Like, which animal, I guess, would humans most be able to learn from in that area?
The best in that.
I think there are a lot of animals that people can learn from. First of all, just in the whole dating process, a lot of people think with animals it's just like the, oh gosh, their kids listening. It's just a quickie type thing. It's not that way. Animals go through a very distinctive courtship process. The male is asking permission. The female is making the selection. Generally speaking, in the animal kingdom, it's the female that runs the show. I know it's that way with a lot of us as well. But guys, when you realize that you need to let the female run that show, you'll be a lot happier. And the fact is, there's an orangutan. We had an orangutan who habitually would perform oral sex on the females while using his fingers to stimulate her in other areas. I mean, this guy was a multitasker to the max. I watched him and go, guys, I don't know if they were watching films in the back or what was going on, but that guy was he was a god of reproduction. He was unbelievable.
Speaking of reproduction, German scientists have turned to in vitro fertilization to help save the white rhino species. They finally successfully impregnated a rhino. What is your thought on turning to IVF to save an endangered species?
I think it's absolutely something that needs to be endorsed, because at the end of the day, we do it for people. And I know there's going to be some religious zealots that say, oh, this is not God's way. No, God gave us the intelligence to learn this, to help correct the bad things that we have done that have created these species becoming endangered and, in fact, extinct if we're not able to reverse that process. And what we're doing is we're basically creating a surrogate mother. We do it in human beings, right? We do embryo transplants into another person to carry when a woman cannot carry on her own, to give her the child. Well, here we're doing, we've done it with a lot of other animals. We've taken zebras, endangered zebras, and put their embryos into horses, domestic horses that have given birth to a full-fledged endangered zebra. We've done that with endangered types of antelope and cattle. So to do this with rhinos is just such an iconic animal that some people, there's some extremists that go, oh, this is not, not the natural way. We shouldn't be doing this. No, we should be doing it because this is something we have to do to correct the mistakes we've made in the past. It's knowledge that we have now to help save an endangered species. And I'm all for it. And I really am proud of the scientists that have dedicated so much time to make this possible.
Ron, do animals have a capacity for romance?
Absolutely they do. Absolutely they do. I've seen that in all kinds of animals where they come and bring presents, they bring gifts to the females to get her, it's kind of like, giving jewelry to your wife. I mean, I've seen it over and over, from birds to primates. These animals will court, they'll dance, romance. Listen, sometimes there's something no more romantic than doing a wonderful dance with your partner. And gosh, animals are the prime example of that. You look at some of the dances some of these animals do, from lemurs to birds of paradise to these mannequins. Oh, these mannequin birds, the dances they do. Look at that. Go look it up on the internet. You'll see these dances they do, and they flash their wings, they go back and forth, and they pat their feet. They do like a flamenco. They do all kinds of stuff. It's fantastic to watch. That's romance, man.
I love a good dance before I have sex. But, Ron, you said something earlier, and you're crazy, okay? Because if I let my wife run the show, you know what I'm not having? Sex.
Yeah, that's a good one. I'm sorry, Stugotz, but let me tell you.
Don't be sorry. It's
Trust
late.
me. Trust me. When you're having sex, Stugotz, it's because your wife allows it. She's running it. She may make you think you're running the show, but at the end of the day, it's her call, brother.
Put it on the poll, please. Do animals have the capacity for romance, yes or no? And do you want to imagine Stugotz seducing anyone? Tony, what do you
No
have?
pants
What do you have for Ron McGill?
Dear God. Ron, all animal tongues are different. And we were talking about the elephants earlier. In Thailand, I fed elephants at part of a sanctuary for elephants, and their tongues are incredibly slimy. Why is it that their tongue is incredibly slimy, but then other tongues are different, maybe more coarse? They use them for different things. Like, what's the difference between animal tongues and the species?
Well, it depends what they're eating. And I think what's happening there is, it's like when you see food that you really, really like, you're getting excited, you start to salivate. So these elephants are probably, getting very excited that they're going to get these treats that people like you are giving them there. So their saliva starts running quite a bit more. And that makes the tongue a lot more slimy. And they're also, elephants can't really stick their tongue way out. It kind of protrudes a little bit, but it's not like a giraffe that comes out like, 16 inches. So by constantly being in the mouth with all that saliva, the tongue appears to be more slimy when it's not really producing the saliva. It's just, keeping it on its surface because it's always in its mouth.
Ron, there's a video of an eagle, a bald eagle, carrying what appears to be a mid-sized deer. At least
it's a chamois.
Yeah, at least a juvenile. Right. And it made me wonder, what is the strongest bird in terms of being able to carry X times their own weight?
It's always the harpy. He always takes the harpy eagle.
But look at that. Dan has learned. It is the harpy eagle.
Really?
It's the most powerful bird of prey on earth. That thing can carry, a small child away.
I feel like the harpy eagle is your answer for any eagle question.
Overrated
No,
eagle.
it's not.
Yeah.
It's not. It's not. Because if you want to go, with the eagle that, is not the brightest eagle in the world, it's not going to be the harpy eagle.
Okay.
It's the bald eagle. The harpy eagle is the most impressive animal in the animal kingdom, according to Ron McGill, of all the animals.
It's a pretty impressive animal, Dan. It's an incredible bird. I mean, you can go and, that's the golden eagle right there. So it's a golden eagle that got a chamois. That's the chamois that you see right there. I saw that same video. It's pretty impressive. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's very impressive. But you'll see those golden eagles. They'll get full-grown foxes. They'll take down and fly away with full-grown foxes.
What is the biggest? What is the biggest eagle that gamble on by DraftKings?
Before we get to Billy's idea on how to save baseball, Greg Cote, do you have any more reheated football takes that you think are going to be better on Tuesday than they were immediately after the games on Sunday or on Monday? Because I have one. I saw Michael Irvin say on whatever the name of that show is with Skip Bayless.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not being disrespectful there. I don't know that. Is it undisputed? Undisputed.
Yes.
He said that it is a fireable offense for the Ravens coaching staff to allow Travis Kelce to have 11 receptions on 11 targets. And I'm thinking they were trying to stop it. I'm thinking everyone's trying to stop that at all times, and it's not something that would appear to be stoppable, given that Travis Kelce always has 100 yards in every game that I'm watching, even though everyone knows you have to stop him. Evidently, the Ravens tight ends can be stopped,
right?
Because I saw that happen Sunday. I have not seen in my lifetime, since he's had Mahomes, a Travis Kelce that can be stopped.
I actually agree with that because he's the one weapon consistently that Mahomes has had the entire season. And he's going to try to get the ball to Travis Kelce. You can't let Travis Kelce be the guy that beats you in that game. You can't.
I understand, but he does and he did because he's the best we've ever seen. And I'm of the argument, like I understand how everyone arrives at these conclusions because Mike did it yesterday and Mike was doing a game planning critique that a ton of people were doing. Why didn't Baltimore run the ball more? But I think of the Ravens as being an exceptionally run organization. I think of John Harbaugh as not only being a champion, but being pretty smart. And sometimes you trust your team to be better than the other guys at what they do. The Ravens take away the middle of the field and take away tight ends because of their linebackers and because of their safety. They couldn't take away that one. They had to take away that one, and it's a fireable offense because you lose if you want to make it a fireable offense. But I haven't seen the coach that can stop Travis Kelce.
Mike McDonald is one of the hottest head coaching candidates because of the work that he's done as defensive coordinator. To suggest that he should be fired because Travis Kelce, arguably the greatest tight end of all time, had a great performance in the playoffs is television. That's what that is. It's debate television. But Travis Kelce hadn't been playing well entering these playoffs. He put up a 3 for 16 against the Cincinnati Bengals. Are you familiar with that defense's work this season? There's plenty of reason to look at Travis Kelce and say, okay, he's one of the greatest of all time. Additionally, he appears to be declining because how can you not at that age when you consider where you've set the bar? But he hasn't had a good season by his standards.
My point is, if you're the Ravens and you could have been undefeated because you had fourth quarter leads in all the games you lost, do you trust your guys to be good at the thing they've been excellent at or not? You change everything you do. You change it all because Travis Kelce is coming into town, and now you're going to have Patrick Mahomes beat you in some other way because you're going to what? Double and triple team Travis Kelce?
No, but then you trust your guys, but you also have to make slight adjustments depending on who it is that you're playing. Like for me, there's no reason to guard Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Just throw him the ball and let's see what happens, okay? Because he might not catch it. I would put everyone on Travis Kelce and Rice, and that's it, and force the other guys to beat me.
And more so now than a few years ago. When Mahomes had Tyreek Hill, at least you could say, all right, they need to cover Tyreek. They need to worry more about Tyreek Hill. Now, if you're defending the Chiefs, you're not that worried about Pacheco. You're going to give him his 100-yard rushing. You're worried about Travis Kelce, and without a great, as you say,
Are you guys
receiver.
of the opinion that Harbaugh didn't understand that he needed to slow Kelce in that game, that it snuck up on him?
Didn't do it.
I know, but
he didn't. That's the point. Like that, it's not crazy to say, hey, like our objective here is to stop Travis Kelce from eating and have the other guys who can't catch the ball and drop it constantly beat us. And if Travis Kelce beats us, we didn't execute the game plan, and this may have been our best shot at a Super Bowl, so there have to be changes. It's not crazy.
They held the Chiefs to 17 points. You're hosting the AFC Championship game. That needs to be good enough. It needs to be good enough. They held everyone else in check, even Mahomes, especially in that second half. Mahomes made the one play that he had to seal the game. This was a Ravens offense loss.
Their game plan was, let's have the best cover safety in the league against tight ends cover the best tight end in football. Yep. Kyle Hamilton, the only touchdown he's led up for a tight end was that one-handed catch that was a back shoulder throw that Kelce made an incredible grab on, one of the 2 touchdowns that the Chiefs had. Kyle Hamilton was that piece. He was healthy, he was back in, and he just got the better one.
My point, Stugotz, just so that the people understand what my point is, because I do understand when you're armed with the result, we are all experts. And I heard plenty of analysis like Mike Ryan's, where people were saying everywhere, why didn't the Ravens run the ball more? It seems obvious to me in retrospect, having watched the game, that Spagnuolo's game plan was take away the tight ends and make Lamar Jackson beat you with his arm. They threw 40 times. But my question to the group here is the following. You think John Harbaugh is good at his job? Yes?
Yes.
You think that organization is as good as any that there's been in football this century? Yes?
Yes.
If they're not able to run the ball, and I told you yesterday that the Chiefs' defense over the last 5 weeks has been better at stopping the run than anybody, is it because John Harbaugh knows less about what he's doing there than we do? Or is it because the Chiefs might have taken something away that you're not understanding, because when we're watching the game, we don't have the sophistication about what the adjustments have to be. All we've got is the criticism once you've got the result.
Well, we have the stats that say the Ravens were twice as good at running the ball than the Chiefs were in that game. And that every time that they decided to hand the ball off or have Lamar Jackson carry, it was a really positive play for them, outside of handing it to Justice Hill, who was terrible in pass protection as well. You can say they took away the tight ends, Mark Andrews coming back from a lengthy injury, but this was the offense failing. This was the offense about to score at the 1 and fumbling at the 1 as Zay Flowers tried to extend the ball. And I know Bill Belichick has famously said, you don't reach for the touchdown at the 1-yard line because things like that can happen. The offense failed. The quarterback had a bad day. and the offensive coordinator, Monken, had a really bad day.
Agreed. My point is, when the offense has a bad day, is it allowed to be because the defense did that to the offense, or does it always have to be their game plan?
No, 100%. The defense has been incredible. Spags is one of the best defensive coordinators ever. Lamar Jackson is going to win a second MVP this season. They totally held him in check. From an offense, there were a couple big-time breakdowns where Zay Flowers got behind people in ways that were a little shocking for a Spagnuolo defense, but this was Monken failing. They botched the game plan against the Kansas City Chiefs. They got uncomfortable because they had to chase the game early on, and they got away from their game plan. It didn't make any sense watching it.
I think Mike is right. This is a team, Dan. This is an offense that scored 38 points against the Lions, 50-plus against the Dolphins, scored 30-plus against San Francisco, had 37 against the L.A. Rams. Like, this is a good offense that really didn't come to play. Just failed on Sunday. They did. They failed in a spectacular way.
The Chiefs are in the Super Bowl because of their defense. Mahomes did not have a particularly good season by his standards, but any team with Mahomes on it is never going to get the credit maybe deserved on defense. The Chiefs had a great defense this season. Not a good one, a great one. Elite.
But
top three.
But if you're going to say that, can you just parse for me the degrees on this, on how much, when you say, and you're right, Ravens offense failed. Whatever they were scheming did not work. 10 points, not enough. Chiefs score 17, you should be able to beat them. You guys are saying all the right things. I'm asking you to make the distinction between how much time you spend criticizing the game plan of people whose life's work is invested for many, many decades in making sure that they're prepared for that game. And the easiest thing for us is to take the result afterward and say, you guys didn't know what you're doing. And so I'm asking, how much do I blame on the Ravens for their offensive failings? And how much do I say, well, McDuffie and Snead are kind of amazing. The Dolphins tried to build what the Chiefs have. They said, look, we'll have Howard and Ramsey, and we'll make Chubb Chris Jones, and we can't do it. We don't have a way to recreate what the Chiefs did. What they do is obviously something that affected whatever Harbaugh's plan was, and I'm trusting going in, Harbaugh's got a plan.
I think it can be both. I think you can give the Chiefs credit for a great defensive plan, and you can blame Lamar Jackson for once again having a really inferior game when they needed him to be at his best. But if you ask every coach in the NFL, all 32 head coaches, how about you give up an average of 17 points a game on defense over the course of a season? Would you take that? Every one of them would say yes. When you hold the other team to 17 points, you're expected to win that game, and you better be prepared to score more than 10 points. And that's the story of this game.
In watching it, I kind of experienced like Lamar Jackson was holding on to the ball, trying to prove a point passing the ball, because there were several opportunities in that game where Lamar Jackson, arguably the greatest runner we've ever seen at that position, could have taken a 12-yard chunk. And he decided to hold the ball, and then the ensuing result was a coverage sack. He just had a really bad game, and the offense had a game plan where they were chasing this game. If I tell you, the guy that scored the third most touchdowns in the sport, your starting running back, and granted they've had injuries there, is averaging 6 yards every time he touches the ball, but he only musters up 3 carries with 20 yards. You're wondering what happened there. Surely this game got out of hand and they had to throw from behind and they were down 3 scores. That game was always within striking distance. They just started chasing the game in a very odd fashion for them.
Lamar Jackson here almost reminds me, if you go cross-sport, to Giannis Antetokounmpo in his first couple of years winning MVP and then failing in the postseason, where you're looking around and wondering, is this him coming up short? Is it the surrounding roster? Is it the scheme that Bud is putting out there as a coach at the time? Because you're looking around and wondering, how could this possibly flail in this way come the postseason when you're looking at this remarkable athlete doing things we haven't seen anyone else do at their position? So it's almost kind of similar, and you have to hope, if you're Lamar Jackson, that your career starts to take that same arc.
I thought that Lamar Jackson had a pretty telling quote before the game, and we didn't talk about it on this show, but he said of Patrick Mahomes, "I hate playing him." He's 1-3 in his career against Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes has seemingly stolen victory from the jaws of defeat against Lamar Jackson. And in watching that game, I think this guy's pressing against Patrick Mahomes, given their history, and he plays out of character.
But, Mike, your point about not rushing the ball is probably the best point, because this is by far the number one rushing team in the NFL. By far, Dan. That is a terrible job by John Harbaugh. You need to run the ball.
Hey, you have it back in my day today, right?
I do.
Yeah, that's
Tuesday.
It's a Tuesday. I'm sorry. I was still
Mike, how dare you?
No, that was my fault. I forgot what day it was.
We'll get to it in a second, and we will get to Billy's suggestion for saving baseball. I understand that when you lose that way, what is going to engulf your offseason is everyone from every angle is going to have a criticism, and it sucks to have to live with all of that. All I'm saying about the Ravens is the following. If I've been the best team in football all year, and what I need in the big game is for my MVP to play like the MVP and for my defense to do what it has done, I do not blame those coaches for choosing to trust the things that made them the best in the league, just like I don't blame Dan Campbell for doing the same thing in the last game that he did in all the other games and just simply believes in the idea that my guys are pretty good and I'm going to trust them. A coach buys himself plenty with his players when he does that, when he trusts them to simply be arrogant about, yes, on 4th and 3, I trust my offense. What do you have? I trust my guys to get the 3 yards.
He's not consistent half to half, though, Dan Campbell. That's the problem. And, Dan, you also lose your players when you put them in a position to lose the game.
Stugotz, it's not inconsistency that was Dan Campbell's problem in
Dan,
that
he
game.
Kicked a field goal at the end of the half to make it a 3-score game.
But we went over this yesterday. That is different inside of the 5-yard line than it is in other situations, and he always goes for it. Like he's done it. It's not always. It's 20 of 24 times, but that's what he does. Like I just don't understand criticizing a coach for doing the same things that he did to get you to 12-5 or 13-3 or 14-3.
Which is why the criticisms for the Ravens lands,
fair, yeah.
because they totally changed up their identity for that game. And while Kansas City's defense is very good and took certain things away, it didn't take away the real engine that made that whole offense run the entire time. You mentioned the NFC Championship game, and I didn't get this taken yesterday, and I want to shoehorn it in before we get to Tuesdays back in my day. We mentioned that the Niners kind of got lucky in that game. You've outlined why. And it's finally the luck working out for them. When you think about how they've missed the Super Bowl previously, the injuries at the quarterback position, famously Brock Purdy snaps his elbow in that game against the Eagles. But also I thought back to when they had a really good team and they went on the road in the NFC Championship game against Matthew Stafford. They had the game won. An interception. Matthew Stafford totally changed his narrative because they dropped an interception in that game. So they get super unlucky there. They get super unlucky the following year, and they somehow back into the Super Bowl, having not played well at all for about a month. Kyle Shanahan has never come back from the point deficits that he's had to the last 2 weeks, and they haven't done so in impressive fashion. So I think you can actually say they've gotten lucky just as easily as you can say they've gotten unlucky in previous years.
The back in my day is ready.
It is.
So too is Billy's saving baseball. Which would you go to if you were me here, Greg Cote?
I would go to Billy.
Wow, I'd go to Greg.
Oh, wow.
Standoff.
That's why they pay you the big bucks. Oh, wow.
It is time to take a trip down memory lane. Here's your guy, Greg Cote, with Back in My Day.
Too many papers here.
You weren't ready for it.
Okay. Clotheslines. Where'd they go? Gone with the wind. Or rather, the gentle breeze that once caressed our washed garments to a state of sun-kissed dry. One of the indelible memories of my ute was the backyard at 1440 and what stood between the above-ground swimming pool and the lime trees. It was a clothesline, now a relic of the past, foreign to many or most except elders, but once a staple of how millions dried their clothing. Dad planted in cement 2 6-foot T-shaped steel poles about 15 or 18 feet apart with a pair of laminated thin steel cords strung taut from the tops. When not in use, dozens of wooden clothespins would stand sentry on the lines like crows on a wire, at the ready. When in use, clothes of all variety, from shirts to pantaloons and undergarments, along with towels and pillowcases, would hang pinned from the line, wafting in the breeze, drying by degrees. The clothesline was nature's clothes dryer, efficient, cost-free, and noise-free, but for the soothing riffle or soft snap of a bedsheet as a mild gust passed by. Nowadays, clothes are thrown into the behemoth maw of the electric dryer in the laundry room, your clothes in a sodden ball, a wet clump as the dryer lumbers to life. With great clatter and racket, the time-consuming dryer spends an hour banging and twisting and high-heating and, over time, shrinking your garments. It's textile torture. Meantime, the sun winks and the breeze tickles in the backyard where the clothesline once stood. Many condo associations and communities, no doubt taking bribe money from Big Dryer, have even banned backyard clotheslines as unsightly. But guess what? Big Dryer doesn't want you to know this, but hang on to your clothespins because the old backyard staple of Americana may be making a comeback. California passed a right to dry law, legalizing clotheslines again. More than a dozen other states, including Florida, remarkably, have overturned local bans on clotheslines as more and more folks embrace the natural way of life. The rally is overdue. Beyond the cost saving and the quiet, mechanical dryers emit greenhouse gas emissions and increase fabric wear and tear. The breeze doesn't. The clothesline also produces no static cling or cloying perfume from fabric softeners, and much less wrinkling as well. Make it a family project. Erect your own clothesline. The air fryer is all the rage. Why not the air dryer, the one waiting for you in the fresh air out back? I'm Greg Cote, and that's how it was back in my day.
Yeah.
Beautifully written. I was not aware that the clothesline was endangered. I thought there are many, many people all over, not just this country, but moreover the entire globe, that don't have the money or the electricity for dryers, and that this is still something that is being used all over the place.
Right.
Am I wrong about this?
No, I think you're right globally, certainly in underserved countries and economically deprived countries, you're probably right. But in America, from when the dryer became invented and became popular in the 1940s and 50s, clotheslines, like my backyard, as anecdotal, clotheslines, became out of vogue.
I don't think in America, though, among people, I'm guessing I have this right. I certainly didn't think that it was illegal to have clotheslines in America.
They're banned in some communities, Dan.
Oh, for sure.
Yes.
But
yes.
it's because they're viewed as unsightly in communities that have money, I would assume. Like not because I
Correct.
Think
you pay $700,000 for your condo. You don't want to see Greg Cote's underwear.
But as of 2013, there were 19 different states that had passed laws forbidding bans on clotheslines. So we're getting back.
We're getting back. We're getting back. But if you put it on the poll, do you have a clothesline or do you use a dryer? I suspect it would be pretty lopsided.
Do you use them?
I did back in the day,
Right.
Sure.
Put it on the poll,
not
please,
now, though?
Juju.
Well, I don't have a good answer for that.
You've succumbed to societal pressures.
I'm picturing the look on my wife's face if I said, you know what, I want to get rid of our dryer. I want to build a clothesline in the backyard like Wild Bill Cote. What do you think her reaction would be?
She would not be happy. On a sunny day, it takes about 4 hours for an article of clothing to dry. On a cloudy day, about 6 to 8 hours.
Okay, what's your hurry?
I mean, you could be done in 45 minutes.
And what's your hurry?
Big news for you, Greg. In 2011, Stephen Lake made a documentary about this huge controversy on clotheslines called Drying for Freedom.
There you go. How about that? So I'm only 12 years behind the curve on this. I thought I was inventing all this.
My neighbors still use a clothesline.
Really?
They're in their 80s.
Okay. Good for them.
It's nice. They go out there. I go out in the yard. The kids are playing in the yard. There they are, picking up their whites, picking up their reds, all that stuff. Yeah.
Very
then they go
nice.
out there, put some new stuff. When it gets cloudy out there, I look around. I'm like, oh, it's going to start raining. Should I go tell Nana that it's going to rain so that they bring in the clothes? I hope they don't get wet. You know what I mean?
No, that's a factor. But the wood clothespins were replaced in time by the plastic clothespin.
Oh, worst product.
Yeah, worse.
Worst
I mean,
product.
you gotta go wood.
100%.
You
Always
gotta
go wood.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, my house, Greg, I don't know if you know this. Well, why would you know this? But my house, when I bought it, it has a clothesline that's been set up, and it was used for, I don't know why, because there's a dryer. But I'll use it if I have to hose things down outside, or sometimes if I clean some towels or I clean some mats, some door rugs, stuff like that. Have it closed, have it air dry outside.
Good for you, Billy.
Yeah, but then it rains, and then I have to do the whole process again. That's the part. The darn rain, you know what I mean?
But rain is cleansing as well, though.
Yeah, but it also wets my dry rugs,
true.
and I have to dry them
But
again.
then it's always sunny tomorrow.
That's true. After every rain comes a rainbow.
Zagak.
Mm-hmm.
Not true in any way.
Which part?
Which part?
Just all of it.
The rainbow.
Oh, what a
Just-
pessimist.
Just every syllable that tumbled from your lips. All of them were wrong.
I don't know about that.
At Le Batard
You've
Show.
seen a rainbow without rain?
Please put it on the poll. If you pay $700,000 for your condo, do you want to see Greg Cote's underwear?
You're damn right you do.
On a clothesline.
Bonus.
I'm in boxers now, so those are much better to look at than when I was in tighty whities. Trust me on that one. Because at some point, the tighty whities don't quite get white anymore on the back, if you catch my drift.
What year did you stop wearing tighty whities, Greg?
Everybody's look. What's the matter with you people?
I'm trying to catch your drift. I don't understand what you meant.
It's a drift better left uncaught, given what he's talking about.
It's been a while.
They just back away.
Odd 8, odd 9,
back
what are we
away
thinking?
from the drift, everyone.
They make underwear in all sorts of colors. You don't have to.
I know, but back in the day, if you wore tighty whities, they were called tighty whitey for a reason.
Yeah.
You know.
I understand, but if
they
you
were
prefer,
tight.
Back in Fruit of the Looms heyday.
Oh, Fruit of the Loom.
if you still prefer those tights as opposed to the boxer, and you don't want to catch that drift again, you can just opt for a different color.
Yeah, no, we love the boxers. We like to breathe. You know what I mean?
But you understand what Mike is saying. You can get brown tighty whities, essentially.
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah. But I'm
camouflage.
past the tighty whities.
Yeah, he
Tighty
doesn't do that anymore.
brownies. Put it on the poll, please, Juju. Are the fruit of Greg Cote's looms paint?
Wow.
I mean, just say what you
Awful.
meant.
That was the drift that you were trying to get us to catch.
Stop making it a drift.
Okay, I like
Stop making it a drift.
I like
It
to be a
doesn't
little
need to
less
be a
direct.
drift. No, but you were that direct.
little
We all
something
knew
to
what you were
nuance,
doing
Dan.
there. No,
Yeah,
we
you gotta
knew what
leave
you
something
were
to the
We knew
imagination.
what you were doing there.
Liar.
Stugotz, ever so slowly, is getting me excited about the Super Bowl because I hear him during breaks planning things. He's talking to Greg Cote about dominating Radio Row, selling the pride of a lion there, with Juju and Stugotz creating a commotion on Radio Row to get Greg Cote interviewed. Billy, why are you shaking your head no back there?
Because we have a tight schedule that we need to adhere to, and we have added responsibilities this year. So we're not just going to have free reign like we did last year. We can just run around for hours. Like, I've looked at the schedule, and there are tight windows, and there's lots of travel going back and forth. There's activations that are being shot during the early days that we have to leave Radio Row, then go back to Radio Row. There's walkthroughs, there's rehearsals, there's all kinds of things going on. We're not going to have all of this endless amount of time.
He doesn't care so much about your planning and your schedule.
No, that's fine. I honestly, and I had this conversation, and by the way, go to circa.com/LeBatard_ come
No,
visit us.
that's
so
not it.
close.
You were doing so well there, man.
Well,
I really thought you were going to help us out.
The old
so
URL.
impressed, Mike.
I was
Yeah.
really hoping you were going to help us out.
I'm a little worried. I feel like, and I know the planning, we're probably too far down the road here, but I was thinking we should do those shows Monday and Tuesday because that's when the energy is going to be at a maximum. Thursday and Friday, energy is not at the maximum.
Well, too late now to
Can we
change
do
it.
Monday, Tuesday? or-
February 8th and 9th, 10 a.m. So please stop talking. 10 a.m. Pacific time. Reserve your tickets now at circalasvegas.com/LeBatard.
I'm going to find the time to do this with Greg because it's important to Greg, okay? Not only will he be pitching the pride of a lion, also Fins at 50. We are going to send that thing to the New York Times bestseller list. I'm also thinking perhaps a very sad Las Vegas Pete Rose-style autograph session where he autographs books outside a store in a sad strip mall. I am going to get this done. I will do it on my own time. I will be there for every single thing that I need to be at, okay? All the rehearsals, I'm ready. I'm taking this thing seriously. But, Billy, I'm disappointed in you.
Why?
This was your idea. You said create a buzz early in the show. Yes.
Yeah.
So I am willing to do this on my own time. Hopefully you'll be willing to do it as well. I know Juju is in.
I need to know the time.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because then we can make it. What day do you get there, Greg?
I get there late Tuesday.
Oh, that's not good. No.
How's that seance going that you guys are planning with Don Shula? How's all that going? Because you guys talk about a lot of stuff and then do next to nothing.
That's falsehoods. That's not true.
How's the seance going?
We reached out to a witch. What do you want me to do?
Yeah, that
I
was
don't
the
have
same
the
answer
ability.
I got last time
I don't have the ability to speak to dead people. I need to talk to people that can, and they're not my employees. I can't just make them talk to me.
Things are happening.
I'm trying to make it happen, but
I have employees and I can't make them talk to me. I don't know why you think having the employees, like I have employees. I want a seance. Make the seance happen, please. Please make me stop asking for the seance. It's a good idea. Execute it, please.
Dan, this is what I've learned about witches. They perform a seance on their own time when they're ready.
Right.
Okay, when they feel like when Rosalind, a friendly witch, she's a friend of ours,
and we want it to remain friendly.
Yes. She has when she feels like it's the right time and she can connect with Don Shula, that's when we'll do it.
Right.
We're on her watch.
Shula's got to be ready as well.
That's right.
Shula's got to be ready.
The last thing you
might
want,
be taking a nap.
The last thing you want in a seance is unwilling participants. You want everyone to be in it. You want Don to be in on it. You want Rosalind to be in on it. You want Captain Lee on it. You want Greg in on it. You want everyone that's there to want to have the conversation.
I just want it to happen, which it will never happen.
It may.
You guys just talk
It may
about
happen
things.
in March, but it may happen.
Is this a pro bono thing for her, for Rosalind?
Yes.
Okay, so I think if there's money involved, she would be able to talk to him a lot faster.
Well, that's not how that works.
No.
I think it
Not
is.
you don't know Rosalind. I mean,
You're implying that this is some sort of sham in which money is exchanged.
I think if you offer a couple $100, I think Don Shula would be very quickly to
no,
answer.
Tony, you're the reason she's not willing to do
Exactly
it right now
right.
because she thinks it's a joke. We're taking it as a joke
Which I
and
am
not taking it seriously.
Which I am
She
not.
takes this very seriously.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
She can't be bought.
Correct.
A couple of housekeeping items, Stugotz, because Billy sabotaged our ability to promote something that's important to promote because right now Friday is really exploding and Thursday ain't far behind. And what we're doing in Las Vegas is something that this show has never done before. Everyone is going. It'll be piecemeal. Greg and I are getting there a couple of days late. It's a quite an effort to get everything we're doing out there, but it'll be just about everybody on our show out there with multiples. And the point of it is to meet you, to talk to you, to get with our fans and do something fun around a, Seminole sports event. And the whole point of what it is that we're doing is for the employees here to have, after 2.5 years of very hard work, a week-long party in Vegas, and to get and meet and greet our fans, which we know are coming in droves to spend this time with us because we don't do much stuff like this. I will also tell you that at LeBatardAF.com, Juju's got a new collection of shirts out, and they're the ones that everybody really loves if you want to see some of what Juju is doing there, because we're going to have merch and everything in Vegas. So we're looking forward to seeing you, and we're encouraging you now to get out there because the whole thing is filling up. We don't do stuff like this very often. Billy, we've waited long enough.
Yes.
How do we save baseball?
Oh, that's a good question, Dan. I don't know if you've caught on to what's happening in football, but football's back. Yep. There were some down years. People vowed to go away from football. Ratings didn't indicate that any of that happened, but football was gone for a little bit, and then it came back because of love. Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce have brought football back. Their love seems to have brought new fans into football. It's pushed away some fans that say they're going to stop watching that have not stopped watching. So I was thinking, we've tried everything possible in baseball to fix baseball. We tried the warning tracks that were made of trampolines. We've tried magic at bats. We've tried all of these things. None of it has caught. Even the ponds in the outfield haven't caught on. So what does baseball need potentially? What's wrong, Greg?
No, I'm waiting. It's like a punchline coming. I'm wrapped with a
Baseball needs a power couple.
It
Baseball
does.
needs love, and baseball needs a celebrity it couple, I think, to get some interest back and to kind of bring in this crowd, this audience that is now watching football. And I don't know if they know this, football is going to end in like 2 weeks, and then baseball is going to get started. So there's going to be a new sport, but you need a couple to be invested in. So me and Jeremy were out here before the show, and we were trying to figure out what is the perfect recipe for a couple that could help baseball? What do we need? Do we need a pop star? Do we need a starlet of some kind?
Like Beyonce?
Well, Beyonce's
she's
married, so that would be
It's a little difficult.
Scandal. You can throw.
Yeah,
some
I mean
scandal in.
that's the part that would be nice is if we can get a scandal wrapped up in this as well, then you can really get the ball rolling and get some eyeballs on the game. We were close. Cole Tucker, the minor leaguer who didn't really work out as a prospect. He, I believe, is married now to Vanessa Hudgens.
Yeah,
but
Vanessa
she's also
Hudgens.
kind of B-list star at this point, and so that one didn't really hit the way that we needed to. So we're trying to figure out who is the pop star that can date a baseball player.
I think Bryce Harper trying to steal Taylor Swift away from Travis Kelce would be the plan.
He's also married.
He's
so
married. Then there's heartbreak.
The problem is when infidelity comes in, then you have to choose a
complicated.
side, and it complicates things. We're trying to hope for someone who's not married to be involved in this, if at all possible.
Makes sense,
You
yes.
know,
Mhm.
yeah.
We're floating out there. Dua Lipa?
Yeah,
Maybe
Dua
that
Lipa.
works?
We're
Ooh,
thinking
I like that.
Dua Lipa is, a big celebrity, a big
Huge
star
star.
at the time. We think maybe
Big on the
Dua-
internet.
Greg?
If I were Taylor Swift, I would lease myself out to needy leagues.
No.
No. Look at here.
Oh.
Okay, it's a money-making venture for her. Hear me out.
Nothing
needs
against
it.
sex
Opposite of
workers,
how I
but-
hoped it would.
No,
Yeah.
She
I
needs
know
money, yeah.
I know she doesn't need the money, but if she did, imagine she makes a phone call to Rob Manfred.
We were
I'm
just
going to
trying
do
set up
for
a joke where
baseball
Elton John was dating a
what
player.
you did
It was all we wanted.
for
It was a long way to get there, but we
football.
were on our way.
That's what I'm going to say if I'm Taylor
Instead,
Swift.
This is what's going on.
Yeah.
I'm dating Juan Soto. I'm going to do for you what I did for the NFL.
I cannot believe we're here.
For half a season, maybe less.
Right.
Okay.
And
Yes.
who foots the bill? Who pays for this?
Baseball.
Why are we
Major
MLB.
League
Just
Baseball.
This
MLB.
went
That's why
literally
she called Rob
opposite way of how
Manfred.
it was
Yeah.
supposed to
Right.
Exactly.
Straight to the top.
Budget.
Yeah.
Just
Right.
take it right out.
What do you think the budget
It's a
should be?
nightmare.
What's the price?
$5 million?
$5 million
For half a season?
No, for a month.
Okay.
But maybe
Yeah.
that's like one concert, maybe or two. That's two
Yeah,
shows.
it's to be
It's
negotiated.
unnecessary.
It's to be negotiated, but she's worth it. Look what the NFL has gotten out of
We're
Taylor
looking for
Swift.
true
seriously.
love.
Is Juan Soto married?
We'll find out.
Weren't there some estimates of
330 million, I
300?
believe.
That's what Taylor Swift has generated for the NFL.
That's
300.
incredible.
Just by showing up.
$5 million would be a great deal for Major League Baseball.
It would be.
That's
a
how they
great
like
deal.
to do things.
I meant $50 million.
Oh, you meant that?
Well, now it's better.
Yeah, $50 million and
Saved
a
it.
free bat.
This went as poorly as I
Louisville
could've
Slugger?
thought it
Yeah.
would.
Free bats.
I thought this was going to go a lot differently when we were talking.
Yeah,
we're
this is
workshopping
not-
it out
this
there.
was
yeah.
not the goal at
I'm
all.
sorry, I didn't mean to steer the conversation away from where we go.
To leasing out Taylor Swift?
Well, leasing out was probably a bad phraseology
You think?
to use.
If you were to rephrase it, what would you say?
Borrowing?
Oh,
Worse.
yeah.
Taylor Swift's a bright businesswoman. You know, she's eligible to do whatever she wants with her name, image, and likeness.
Thank you for giving her that permission.
Yeah.
No problem.
This is a nightmare.
It's a nightmare because you talk about workshopping it, and at one point I do remember the idea of Elton John dating Bruce Bochy, but unfortunately we never got there.
No, that was Tony La Russa.
Yeah, it's
we
Tony
never
La
got
Russa,
there.
yeah.
Never got there.
Well,
Got
we were
too
trying
busy.
to get there, but then
Yeah,
Greg had
yeah,
Taylor.
Elton
leasing
John is in a
herself.
long-time relationship. So
Yeah, that's-
he's ineligible.
But
Whereas
that,
Taylor
yeah.
Swift, eligible.
Juan Soto, not married, has a girlfriend.
Hello. Available.
That's available?
You know, you don't know what the relationship is. Girlfriend can mean anything. It can be serious. It can be casual.
You're right.
It can be long-standing. It can be recent. Maybe they just met a week ago. We don't know that.
When you had a girlfriend back in the day, Greg, did you ever have like multiple girlfriends because it wasn't that serious?
Multiple meaning two.
Sounds like a yes.
Yeah.
Two or more. You dated two. You dated
It's a lot
two-
easier to get
you had
away
two
with that back in
girlfriends
the
at the
day.
same time.
Ooh, that should be your next back in my day.
Yeah, adultery.
Adultery.
And it was a lot easier.
You could have an entirely separate family.
Just move to another town 2
Back-
miles down the
Back
road.
in my day, I'd go on vacation, and my employer wouldn't know if I was alive for 2
That
weeks.
is a great back in my day. Adultery.
Hey, I'll do that. Yeah, that's a good one.
$5 million.
Tell us more about your scandalous dating habits.
It's a true story that I was in a long time not permanent, but full-time relationship with a young woman.
This is the new
when,
and improved Dan Le Batard
when I
Show
met
with
her
the
lane.
Stugotz.
And-
Gamble
and
on by
history
DraftKings. Start of the day, start of the day. It is the start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is the start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is the start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is the start of the day.
Today's remarkable stat of the day is brought to you by Venmo and PayPal. This one comes courtesy of Josh Dubow of the Associated Press. With the 49ers and Chiefs having no Alabama players on their active roster, a remarkable streak will continue. No player who finished college at Alabama, that's important, no player who finished college at Alabama has scored a point in the Super Bowl. Players from 143 other colleges, ranging from the Coast Guard, which has the fewest with 1 point, to Miami with 84, the most, have scored in the Super Bowl. No members of the Crimson Tide, despite their dominance, have scored in the Super Bowl.
No graduating members.
Correct. Like Jalen Hurts would have been eligible, but he finished as a Sooner.
But who graduates these days?
Not even graduating. Your college career ended while you were at Alabama.
Finished your college
you
career
declare
at
for the
Alabama.
draft while you were in Alabama.
That's shocking. That's like one of the most surprising stats of the day we've had in a really long time.
The only reason I don't find it shocking is because Alabama's players are too good to complete school. They go out to the pros early. There are plenty.
No,
It's
you're not
completing
understanding.
school.
It's finishing their college career at Alabama.
Yeah.
They just got to,
finishing
the
their
last
college
team
career.
they played
They don't have to graduate. They can declare
as
early.
a junior, and you haven't. Anyone who's finished their career at
people who didn't transfer away from Alabama.
You could leave college early.
I said
to
this
join
part
the
was
NFL.
important.
Yeah. So, let's say you finished as a junior and you went to the NFL.
Right.
But you finished your career at Alabama.
So Tua, not Jalen Hurts.
None of those players have scored a point in the Super Bowl since whatever.
Well, Jalen Hurts has, but he finished his college career at
Oklahoma.
at
He went to
Oklahoma, not Alabama.
Yeah.
Right. Got it.
Yeah.
My bad. Thank you for the clarification.
No player that picks his head up on Sunday Night Football and says, so-and-so left guard, Alabama, Crimson Tide, they've never scored a point.
I appreciate all of the clarifications. Another clarification from earlier in the show that I have to make. The caricature that Greg Cote is objecting to, he smeared the name earlier of Angel Resto while trying to compliment him but saying his fees are exorbitant. Angel Resto has since texted me, I never received payment from Greg Cote for anything that I made for him.
I mean, lower the fees. I mean, perhaps you'll get a payment.
The Stugotz is strong in you, Greg Cote, complaining about fees you did not pay.
Angel, I'm talking to you directly right now. Liar! No, I think I paid him.
I believe.
I'm going to get my staff on it.
Right.
My staff is on it. They're checking into it as soon as I alert them. And so we're going to rectify this situation, Angel.
Well, you just called him a liar,
Right.
and how does a
You think you paid him.
rectification
Yes.
happen?
Well, pardon me.
$5. You owed $5 from before.
it's
You owe
$10
$10
So
now.
choked up. To be accused of not paying a bill is ridiculous. I was late on my Comley, the racehorse bill once and got a nasty letter from Team Valor. But this is worse because Angel did a great job on my logo. Even we're thinking of redesigning. But I thought we paid him. I will check with Christopher.
You owe $10 right now in
No,
fines.
he charged me a lot more than that.
It was more than
For the
$10.
logo.
$10 for the fine.
I wish.
Right.
I wish it was only
But
10.
you
owe
didn't
Angel
pay any of it.
$10,000, yes.
You owe $10 here for coughing into the microphone.
was $5.
What? You've done it twice.
I don't recall the first time.
It was in the first 10 minutes of what
Never
we were
happened.
doing today.
Liar.
All right.
Liar!
Yeah, you mentioned that.
Did you maybe give it to Christopher and tell him to pay, and maybe it
and
disappeared?
he pocketed it?
Yeah,
I
possibly.
think that's exactly what happened. I gave him cash. I was going to send him directly to wherever Angel lives.
Yeah.
I don't believe he did it.
Angel likes to deal in cash.
No, we're going to get to the bottom of this, Angel, if you're listening. Seriously, if you haven't been paid, you will be paid.
You
Believe
just
me.
called him
You
a
just
liar.
called him a
I
liar.
was kidding. That's my impression I'm defending myself. That's my go-to.
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
defending myself.
Same.
Then I do my due diligence. If I find out that Angel's right, and it was just some terrible oversight. I'm certainly glad he alerted me to the faux pas.
Stugotz, speaking of being alerted to something that escaped my attention, because a lot of people complain over many, many years that I am always beating on the same drum, race-related drum. But Roy Wood Jr. pointed something out to me that I had not noticed that absolutely represents progress, hiring progress when it comes to football. Bill Belichick, that job, replaced by in-house candidate who had relationships with the team. Michigan football, that job, replaced by in-house candidate without going around and interviewing a bunch of people. But the greatest sign of progress, those are two pretty good ones, Stugotz,
Yes.
to go from Harbaugh and Belichick to
Yep.
you're not outsourcing a bunch of different interviews. You're just hiring a guy that you know because you have the relationships with him, and it's a black guy, and that does represent progress, but not as much as this. The Atlanta Falcons said no to Bill Belichick and hired a dude named Raheem.
I mean,
That is
wow.
That is, we don't even need the Rooney Rule anymore. Like once, put it on the poll, please, at Le Batard Show. Do you need the Rooney Rule anymore when Belichick loses a job to Raheem?
And a retread head coach, because Raheem Morris had an opportunity once at that position before, and it's hard to get a second chance despite the success. I mean, we were constantly wondering why Lovie Smith hadn't been hired a second time. We were always wondering why Jim Caldwell hadn't been hired until he got hired again by the Detroit Lions. But I actually do think the Rooney Rule has finally figured it out. By incentivizing you hiring minority candidates, developing those candidates into an attractive commodity that another organization may want to scoop up, and then you getting draft compensation, and you don't need to look any further than Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan. When you look at their staffs, it's among the most diverse in the sport. Now, what is happening with Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan? They're known as kingmakers. Everybody wants someone that is adjacent to Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay. It's how Brandon Staley seemingly comes out of nowhere and gets a head coaching job. So these are teams that have a very unique approach to the draft and draft capital. They don't really care for it. They know that they can pluck a Puka Nacua later on, and now, as part of their strategy, they will just develop minority candidates to the point that they'll get a comp pick in the third round, and that'll replace the draft capital that they've used to acquire a proven commodity at a position of need. We're finally seeing real results with the Rooney Rule.
Except for Eric Bieniemy. What is happening there? Why can that guy – I need someone to do a deep dive, Seth Wickersham, if you're listening, onto why it is Eric Bieniemy is not getting a job. But, Dan, you're right. Because if I told you 10 years ago Bill Belichick was going to leave the Patriots, 6 Super Bowl rings, and a team would not hire that person because they were hiring a guy named Raheem, you would have laughed me out of the room.
Well, let's explore something here for a second, because one of the things that I do find interesting in how easy it is for people at microphones to criticize anything that takes time to correct itself. I think of the Knicks now, because a lot of people were complaining about the changes that they made. And they've made the correct changes. They still haven't gotten the star, but now they are in a better position than they have been at any time. When this management team came in, they came under a great deal of duress because Jalen Brunson's not good enough, but Jalen Brunson is good enough. Yes. I don't know whether he's good enough to carry a team to the finals, but now they are credible enough for the first time this century to attract something that will finish deep in the playoffs. You have expectations for it, and they've fixed the New York Knicks. But the amount of noise around the New York Knicks, because they inherited 20 years of failure, whether it's the Rooney Rule or the New York Knicks, these things take a minute, and microphones don't wait a minute to criticize. And you can absolutely say that the NFL has done some of the hard, heavy lifting on something to at least improve, because it hasn't been corrected yet, but at least improve what was a great deficiency that the league had and that it had a blind spot about.
You mentioned the NBA and the New York Knicks, and yesterday we were talking about the decline in the NBA's ratings as all the other sports go up. The NBA has an issue. And the NBA have often made fun of the Knicks. Everyone says the league needs the New York Knicks. Well, over the last 35 years, the Knicks haven't done much of anything, and yet the league is in a real healthy place. Well, they could use the Knicks being good now. That could actually be a nice shot in the arm. So the timing might work out for this league.
But you remember how loud it was, right? When when everyone took over, the Knicks were selling their soul to get in the agent business, because the agents are the power brokers, and the way they were going to fix this is by getting the free agents finally, because they have a bunch of brokers who have relationships, real relationships with players. But that's not how they did it, Stugotz.
No.
They've done it through shrewd team building. And
they did it with a father-son relationship with Rick Brunson.
I think, if anything, Knicks fans are disappointed that the agents that are now running the Knicks are not able to get a big superstar, but they have done a very good job of putting together a very good
They've
roster.
done the harder
Is
thing.
Is championship good?
Stugotz,
I don't
no,
know.
probably not.
Right.
Not yet. And you need the superstars, but they built it the hardest way, which is architecturally versus just getting a relationship. I thought when they were getting Leon Rose and Wes, when they were getting relationships,
Worldwide Wes.
Yes, when they were getting thank you, Stugotz.
You got it.
I was surprised that you came with that one.
Worldwide. I mean.
Yes, but I thought that they were trafficking in building relationships to free agent power. That's not how they built it. They've built something that's strong and has Taj Gibson again.
10-day contract.
I mean, they did tamper with Jalen Brunson. They got dinged a second-round pick for it, but they were found to have tampered.
But that's the best thing they've done. I don't think anyone thought Jalen Brunson, I didn't, could be a number one player. Like, lead a team, be the best player on that team, but he's done it.
The funniest part about the people that they hired is they didn't lean on those relationships. They leaned on a former backup point guard's relationship with his son to convince him to come over.
We'll take it.
I see Tony's Things to Ponder folder, and we're going to get to it, Stugotz. We're going to reach in there. How many things are in there, Tony? Is it multiple things, plural things to ponder, or is there a thing or two to ponder?
What a great idea. 4, 5, 6. We got 7 different things in the folder. Here, let me see. We got AI? Question mark?
All right. So
I'm just giving you a little bit of a flavoring.
Iverson.
Billy, what do you think about what's happening there? You seem to lack confidence in that folder.
It just seems like a lot of things you could Google.
You can Google? That's not the point of it's not Googling the answer. It's having a conversation about it and then pondering about it.
All right. So that's
I
pondering
love to ponder.
stuff.
Yeah.
Ponder this, Stugotz, because you would love this. I saw a video the other day, and you got to have friends who keep you humble. Tom Brady is walking through what looks like a petting zoo of some sort with his entourage. And one of his entourage members points and says, "Oh, look, the Mahomes exhibit." And it's goats.
Not surrounded by yes men.
That's
Interesting.
well played by a friend.
I mean, I would have preferred, if I'm Tom Brady, for a little bit of respect on that. But Brady thought it was funny.
Which do you think is worse by an employee, that or Tyreek Hill's employees filing for divorce on his behalf without his consent?
You know what? I gotta put that in the folder.
Okay, let's see what is in the folder, Tony. Are we going to pick things out randomly, or are you going to come
I'm
out
just
with?
gonna go with the first thing here. Bill Gates? Question mark?
Oh, my God. This guy. Are we pondering? What are we doing?
Let's ponder.
Okay. Dan, Bill Gates is annoying.
What are we pondering? What are we doing? Are you incapable?
It was in the folder,
of
Dan.
Pondering.
I thought we all discussed. I don't know how the game works. It's not my game. It's Tony's game. Do we all discuss Bill Gates with a question mark? What do we do with Bill
things
Gates?
to ponder, and he's pulled out Bill Gates. So do you have opinions on Bill Gates?
I do. I'm tired of Bill Gates, okay? Bill Gates is annoying me because every other day he's putting out articles about things that that he's not qualified to put out articles on, okay? I don't care about the 10 tips to help me live a longer life. I don't care about nutritional tips from Bill Gates. I don't care about it. Who is Bill Gates? He invented the computer, okay?
You might have stolen that too, by the
answered
way.
your own question.
And he's a one-trick pony. Do me a favor and do it again, Bill Gates. Do something else. Invent something else. But just because you invented Microsoft or the computer
it's
or
not
the
the war.
modern day computer does not give you permission,
Operating system.
to ruin everything for me. Here's what NASA is going to look like in 10 years. Here's what we're doing to our planet, and this is what it's going to look like in 10 years. You know what? Let me see what happens. Stop spoiling everything, okay? When states start falling into the ocean, you know what? I want to experience it and see it for the first time.
He's right. He's so right.
Thank
This
you.
guy's a nerd,
Yes,
dude.
right.
Worry about what you got to worry about. Read books. Do something else.
This
Dork.
guy's a
like
nerd.
you're
If
buying
he
up all the
was-
farmland. Why?
You invent a
interesting.
computer. It gives you permission to tell me how to live my life.
Tells me I'm going to
mean,
eat bugs in
Jesus.
20 years. Get out of here, dork.
If you were so smart, why didn't you invent Amazon?
Thank you. Exactly. And invent something else. I mean, again, he's
One-trick
resting on his
pony.
laurels. I mean, this guy.
What's he done lately?
Put it on the poll, please.
You want nutrition advice from Bill Gates?
Dude, the
Like,
guy
he
looks
knows
like
more
a
about
mummy, dude. Get out of
nutrition?
here.
Thank
True,
you.
he does
Yes.
look like a mummy.
I mean, come on. Who wants to look like that?
Can I tell you
Not
something?
me.
Can I tell you something I saw
Doesn't
the other
take creatine,
day?
I bet.
I saw a video on social medias, and it was for an ice cream sandwich that doesn't melt. And they were like trying to tell you, like, I left this ice cream sandwich out for 12 hours and it doesn't melt. And I think that what they were trying to tell you is like, this is full of this and that, and you probably shouldn't be eating it. And I was like, finally, advancement in ice cream that doesn't melt. Like, this is what I've wanted my whole life. If I go to have an ice cream sandwich sometimes, it melts in my hands. It gets all over, sticky, all this stuff. I don't get to enjoy it. I'm glad that I'm finally able to eat an ice
You
cream
want to
sandwich
eat
that doesn't
fake
melt.
plastic food.
Correct. If it doesn't melt, yes.
All right. He's Bill Gates guy. My bad.
Put it on the poll, please. Juju at Le Batard Show. All one word. Bill Gates, get out of here, dork. Yes or no? Does Bill Gates look like a mummy? And did Bill Gates invent the computer? Because I'm not sure he invented the computer. I don't
The
think
modern day computer. When's the last time you used Windows? I mean, sir, invent something else. Last time, Dan.
Well, I'm the bad person to ask.
The answer is you haven't done it in a long,
You're a
long
Mac
time.
guy, Dano. I can see it in you.
He's got an AOL email address. I imagine he's been playing Minesweeper this entire break.
I just don't like these guys. Even Bezos to an extent. I mean, they invent something, they're big shots, and all of a sudden they're telling me the 10 tips to live a longer life. Please. I mean, come on.
I mean, what's Henry Ford done lately?
Thank you.
You know, he invents the
Right.
automobile and then just takes the rest of his life off.
Here's a tip. Earn $1 billion. It gives you a license to tell everyone else how to live their life. I don't
right about
care. I mean, seriously.
Well, I think he's taking that tip then.
Well, I mean, listen, I'm going to live my life the way I want to live my life, okay? Not the way Bill Gates wants me to live my life.
Amen.
That's all I'm trying to say. Unless he invents something else. Then I'm willing to listen.
I'm going to put this back in the ponder file, by the way.
Thank you.
Well, I think we've.
So we're still pondering.
Well,
No, we're still pondering.
But I
Yeah,
think
we're
you
still
should throw that
pondering.
out. We
There's
just
still some meat on that bone.
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
All right,
Clearly.
let's see
Oh,
what
I
else
got
is
more,
in there.
yeah.
The things to ponder.
Not in Bill
file.
Gates' bones, though,
look.
because he looks like a
Those
mummy.
computers.
Christian Ponder. Whatever happened to him?
Oh, wow.
Things to think about.
What did happen?
He's a decent quarterback. Why did he
married to
not get
Sam
another
Ponder.
shot?
Yeah.
Took her name.
I'm going to keep that one in there.
Thought he was going to be good.
That had less pondering on it than
You
the
know,
other.
I mean,
all that had was a ponder joke on it. There
we were
really
just-
was.
No, we were thinking about it. We're pondering.
Christian Ponder, whatever happened to him? What the hell's that?
Freemasons? Anybody want to take a stab at that?
What?
My brother was a Freemason.
Really?
Really?
Yeah.
How'd he get in?
It's hard to get in, and it's kind of a secret, and you have to go through an assortment, a
Well,
labyrinth of
if
things.
you know, then
Pondering.
I
he was a
believe Billy
bad
Corgan of the
Freemason.
Smashing Pumpkins is also a Freemason.
I've always wanted to be part of a secret society.
This is a secret society, and it's hard to get into. Jeremy, can you look up for me, please? Because the Freemasons, I don't know whether they're one of the most exclusive clubs. I don't think they're the Illuminati or anything like that. But Freemasons, I remember my brother had to go through a testing labyrinth. You can't just walk in and pay a membership fee to get into the Freemasons.
You can't just shoot a finger gun and be like, "What's up, boys? What are we doing here?" Huh?
Bill Gates can. I mean,
Nah, not even him. Dork. What level was he, Dan? Do you know?
I think it was a secret. He didn't talk about it
touche.
very much
Wow.
because I think there were secrets involved with being a Freemason that you only shared with other Freemasons.
Well, can't you then just anyone say they're a Freemason, and then when they ask you follow-ups, it's like, it's a secret.
I actually
Can't
have an
tell you.
incredible story about that. One of my grandfather's brother, so my great uncle, was a Freemason, and in Cuba they were rounding everybody up, and Castro's forces were there. He was on a wall, and he gave a secret handshake.
Not a firing squad wall.
At a firing squad wall. The guy came around, was like kind of making sure that nobody had any weapons on him. He went to shake his hand and gave him a Freemason handshake, and the guy let him walk.
I mean, there are benefits, I would assume.
Sounds like
Yeah.
he was a communist.
Are we going to find out that there's like some crazy Freemason controversy, you know?
I don't know.
I mean,
man.
almost definitely.
There's
Sure
a ton of
there
them.
is.
Yeah.
Sure,
Yeah.
pick one.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it's just.
I could
Is
keep
anyone
going in the
else in
ponder
like
file.
a secret society before we move forward? Anybody want to reveal that?
I don't believe among us that we have any secret society members, but I also wouldn't know, given that they are secret societies.
I was a member of Columbia House.
I don't believe that has the same standards as the Freemasons.
I got a bunch more here, Dan. I can probably take this.
Well, I don't want to
last
leave
one.
here. I want Jeremy to find what the labyrinth is on how there's nothing on the internet.
I think the whole premise is that you're not supposed to know.
No one knows.
I'm trying really hard here, Dan.
Greg is a blood.
I'm looking at the description of Freemasonry, and it
looks like he belongs
bizarre.
with Crips.
A blood or a Crip? Do they get along now, or are they still warring?
Excellent
Only in the meme.
expertise. Go ahead. You were saying, Greg?
Freemasonry refers to a fraternal organization, guilds of stonemasons.
Are you just
from
reading
the
from
end
Wikipedia?
Of the 14th
Are you?
No, he's
century.
not even reading from Wikipedia. He's reading from the first page of Google.
Right.
So he didn't even get to the Wikipedia
Exactly.
article because I saw the same thing.
Yeah. All I want to know is it free to get in? Because it implies that it is Freemasonry.
I said Crips because I meant like tunes.
Okay,
Very-
I get it. Okay.
Very clever way to advance the joke.
Crypt.
I want to apply. How do you apply for Freemasonry?
You have to join a lodge.
Well, is it free? Not.
No, that's elk.
No, it says right
Yeah.
here, joining a lodge.
Moose and elks are lodges.
Yes.
Where do Freemasons congregate? Like, where do they meet? How do they meet? Is it online?
Now we're pondering,
Is
boys.
it like a local building?
This is
We are pondering.
This is a ponder.
Asking
Good
all
ponder.
the right
I
questions.
know, right?
In retrospect, do you see why the Christian Ponder one was a bad idea? it had nothing.
We pondered a little bit.
We didn't ponder at all. The reason you're saying now we're pondering boys is because of how little we pondered on Christian.
Ponder this. Who would you trust more with nutritional advice and how to live longer? Bill Gates or Antonio Gates? Ponder that. Okay.
Hall of Famer.
That's
Thank
a
you.
good question.
Thank you.
Billy, the delight on your red face suggests to me that you know that's not a
Antonio
good question.
Gates. Look at him and look at Bill.
like a
I
Greek
mean,
god.
come on. Who's telling me how to live
Mummy,
healthier?
Hal Mummy over here,
Come
please.
on.
How mummy?
Got one more, Dan.
We're out of time.
NFL rigged?
Oh my God.
Just a ponder. We're just pondering. We're just pondering things.
The answer, of course, is yes. Look at Jeremy. His face is radiating an ignorance. He can't find anything on
I
the
can't
internet.
find anything.
It's working.
Stugotz has a top 5 most boring quarterbacks to ever be in the Super Bowl. Greg, do you have any more before we get out of here for the day? Because this is the tough hour for you generally on Tuesdays. You've lost some stamina over the years, and I figure if I throw you some lobs on reheated football takes, have you gotten them all out of your system, or do you have any more before we get to Stugotz's top 5 most boring quarterbacks?
I'm good. I don't have any more reheated football takes that I haven't already put on the burner. So I think we're good right now. A little plug for my Greg Cote Show podcast. I just got that in, so now we're all set.
He did mention before the show that he had perhaps his most famous guest in Greg Cote Show featuring Greg Cote history with
Fine.
Andre Agassi is on his podcast.
No way.
Andre Agassi, I believe, had the best sports biography I have ever read. I don't know what you talked to him about. I thought it was pickleball, but how would you tell the audience that they should go check out the Greg Cote Show featuring Greg Cote?
It's an interesting chat with Andre Agassi. I hadn't had a chance to meet him before. And we talked to him about pickleball because that's what he's promoting down here. There's a big Pickleball 2 Slam happening at the Hard Rock on February 4th, including John McEnroe and Maria Sharapova. And he's playing with, Agassi is playing with his wife, who happens to be Steffi Graf. So it was a fun talk about transitioning from tennis to pickleball and about his life and growing up in Las Vegas, which is now the boom town for sports. And I asked him if he's jealous that Steffi Graf has won more than twice as many majors as him. So we had some fun as well. It's a good interview.
If you're not familiar with Andre Agassi's story or this biography, if you like to read at all, what I would just tell you is this person's growth on a public stage from that sport where young people can get eaten up, and fame can eat all kinds of people up, young or old. The things that he learned, the wisdoms accrued from life that allow him to partner in life with Steffi Graf in a what seems like a truly functional, loving marriage, the things that he learned. The book was a revelation for a number of different reasons, but that man's growth has been extraordinary to watch as somebody who dominated American tennis in a way we haven't seen a whole lot of since.
I wouldn't say he dominated. He was a very good player. He was supposed to dominate. Pete Sampras did. He did the dominating.
Okay, but I mean...
Semantics.
Right. Fine. If you want to. He was great.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why you would do that.
I have no idea. There was no reason to do it. You said dominate U.S. men's tennis, and there was someone dominating at the same time, and it wasn't Andre Agassi. That's all. I was just pointing that out. I'm sorry. Though.
All right.
He's Stugotz, Dan.
Right.
He only won 8 majors. I mean, come on. Win a 9th. Where you been?
Okay.
But you're right. He has all that interesting stuff in his background. Of course, we didn't talk about any of that because it's the Greg Cote Show. It's not South Beach Sessions. But we had a fun interview anyway.
I read the book, and I marveled at the fact that the pain that Agassi lived with towards the end of his career and still lives with today is amazing. Like, I didn't realize he was in that much pain. I read the first chapter when he was in pain. You told me to read it. I read it. I tried. I read a chapter. I didn't go any further because you keep talking about it. You ruined it. I knew that part. Dan knows. I'm telling the truth. What?
No way that you
Did you just go to the recap?
Nothing.
What's the last book you read?
Cut out. Shit.
Next time you're reaching for a book, it's for rolling papers.
You just to tell me that somebody is more dominant than somebody else, but it doesn't matter.
Badab. Liar. Didn't read a chapter. Badab. And you know it. He bad.
Brad. Jay Glazer is here. He is our football expert. He's the host of the Unbreakable podcast. He's the author of Unbreakable, How I Turned My Depression and Anxiety into Motivation, and you can too. Obviously, the insider for Fox NFL Sundays. He is the owner of many $90 serums, and we've exposed him a number of times on this show. But that's the only place that he is a bit fraudulent. $5 for coffee.
Real journalism.
Tell me this, Jay. What are the fairest?
Wait, what the are you guys just doing? What did I just miss there?
Those are the chickens. Those are the chickens that come out when someone around here, usually Stugotz, is lying. It's an assortment of chickens that come out there.
Okay.
Chicken
Only
time.
Stugotz.
Jay Glazer said that was his natural musk, and he pays $90 to smell that way. Can you tell us, Jay, what you believe to be the fairest criticisms of the coaches on Sunday? Because I'm hearing a lot of coaching criticism because Harbaugh didn't run the ball or Campbell went for it on 4th down. You, as someone who knows football and talks to an assortment of football people, what are they saying about Sunday that was done poorly by the coaches?
Honestly, dude, I'm not going to criticize a coach who got through the AFC and NFC championship game. But also, this is nothing new for Dan Campbell. Every time Dan Campbell's been aggressive, everybody's applauded it. When it doesn't work, everybody kind of all over him. And I think Dan Campbell's completely changed, not just the culture of the Lions, but, man, changed that city. Gave that city so much hope. So, man, I will never – look, I think if Josh Reynolds comes up with those passes, everybody's going, oh, he's aggressive. But that's what Dan Campbell does. When you drop those passes, then everybody craps all over you. But I never look at it something as one or two things defines, a guy's what he's done during the season, but especially in championship games. Not at all. If you want to be aggressive in championship games, honestly, if that's who you are, if you're not changing from who you are, I don't have a problem with it. It sucks when it doesn't work. But I really don't have as much of a problem with it as everybody else.
Let me ask a question a different way.
Oh, those 4th down conversions, Dan.
Yeah.
Those were pretty heart-racing moments in the NFL, were they not?
Yeah.
Did you know that heart disease is the #1 cause of death in the U.S. due to often invisible risk factors? Learn more and assess your heart risk factors at checkyourheartrisk.com. Brought to you by Bayer Aspirin, the official sponsor of Fans Health.
Seamless.
Can you tell me, Jay, why Baltimore didn't run the ball more on Sunday?
I think Baltimore also, early in the year, they lost a lot of running backs. I don't know. They had a lot of consistency with their running game all year long. They kept, going back and forth between their different running backs. Losing Dobbins early in the season, it hurt them. But I think more than that, I think Steve Spagnuolo took things away and disguised. He did such a great job of disguising what the Chiefs were doing. I think the Chiefs just didn't have what the Ravens were able to do. I think the Ravens just didn't have an answer for a lot of what they were seeing out there. He did such a great job of thinking that, they were bringing these players when it was actually on the other side of the field, or, such a great job blitzing those secondary members as well. I just think it was more, I think Spags out-schemed them more than anything else.
Michael Irvin said that it's borderline fireable to allow Kelsey 11 catches on 11 targets. I would argue that if people could stop that, they would have done it the last 10 years.
Right.
Where do you side on that one?
The same thing. It's like, we were saying the same thing a couple of years ago about Cooper Kupp constantly being open. Like, how do you let this guy open all the time? It's not always just up to you. There's a reason why these guys are Hall of Famers. But also at the same time, he got himself open because, what I think Mike McDonald did also, they were able to find certain openings in the scheme that they could exploit, but it's not like it led to 34 points. So you could have, yes, Kelsey did damage, but he didn't end up, ruining the game for Baltimore, Baltimore's defense completely.
I want to ask you about the other tight end in the Super Bowl because while people look at the box score and don't necessarily, for George Kittle, because if you look at the box score, minimal impact on that game. Yeah, but George Kittle, I don't know. There's highlights on making their way around.
Kittle did blocking wise?
Yeah, what he did against Aiden Hutchinson was insane. There's videos all over social media. Is George Kittle the greatest blocking tight end of all time?
Wow.
Of all time?
Of all time.
No, I don't even think George Kittle would say. I think Mercedes Lewis is probably the best blocking tight end in the NFL. Mercedes Lewis is like having a tackle. If Mercedes Lewis wanted to move right now to right tackle, he could probably play like another 6 or 7 years. But Kittle, what he does to people, it's and I think the thing also is the way he just kind of destroys you, and then pokes fun at you without you taking offense to it, is really the mastery of George Kittle. But also, I'll say this. I've known Kittle forever. I've known Travis Kelce forever. I know everybody wants to hate on Kelce, what's going on with him and Taylor Swift. Man, he's one of the rare superstars, too, that, to get on such a bigger plane, popularity-wise, pop culture-wise, and the dude just hasn't changed. I give him a lot of credit. There's a lot of guys in this league we've seen, they show up and they're different people. All of a sudden, when fame hits them, and Kelce was famous, but I like this, totally different. But he's always been the same. Kittle, I don't think he could be anybody but who he is. Those guys are about as authentic as you get.
Jay, why hasn't Bill Belichick been hired?
I've been telling you guys that on this show for how long?
Yep.
Right? During the season, you guys said I was crazy. Well, I am crazy, but you guys were, saying I was nuts.
You said 3 months ago, you said there would not be a line for his services. And in fact, when you left the interview, you told me, hey, don't clip that and throw that to everybody because I don't want to be aggregated on being the one who's questioning Bill Belichick. But you did say 3 months ago.
I didn't want to tabloid it. That's what I said. I didn't want to throw, because that's what happens a lot of times too. You say something that gets kind of tabloidy. I don't know what headline we're putting up there, but yeah, no, I thought it the whole time. And, I think I said it on the show over and over, and I said on Fox as well. I didn't think there was going to be a big line because I think, I told you guys things kind of do change. You're not just bringing in Bill Belichick, the coach. You're bringing Bill Belichick, this culture of, paranoia and control, and there's a lot. He's not just going to come and coach. He's going to come in and probably wipe out a lot of people that are in there, and it's okay to deal with when you have a great quarterback like Tom Brady and you're winning, but when you're not winning, nobody wants to go to work and be miserable. I think that, and that's, I also told you guys that I think that the coaching, what people are looking for is different now than it had been. And, you look at the Dan Campbells, you look at the D'Amico Ryans, you look at the Sean McVays, you look at Mike McDaniel, you look at it and go, okay, that's what these guys are connecting with. Because, like these players are getting beat down constantly on their phones now with social media and Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. And last thing they need to do is get beat down by that guy who's, that male figure that's in their life that they want validation from. So I think that things have changed in what people are looking for from a head coach. Is he the greatest coach who ever lived? Absolutely. But there's a lot more that goes along with him. And I just looked at kind of some of the owners and the openings that will be open, and I just didn't really see a fit. Even look, Atlanta was definitely interested. Even that one kind of surprised me that would be the place that would have been so interested in him. And in the end, yeah, I think they wanted Bill Belichick to coach, but not everything else that came along with it.
Jay, stay there. Greg Cote can't wait to ask you a question. We were just talking to Jay off air, telling him to come see us in Vegas, and he said, oh, downtown. And, he's going to be at the Wynn and the Cosmopolitan, but we're doing it dirty downtown style.
I have him at the Luxor.
No, that's the media hotel. Jay's not going to do that. No, Jay's going to do it. Jay's going to do it high end.
He's a prominent media member.
We are also doing it high end, thanks to our partners over at Stadium Swim at Circa Hotel. We will not disparage them. We won't mention any other hotel brands because you don't do that during a promo. February 8th and 9th at 10 a.m. Pacific time. Reserve your tickets now at circalasvegas.com/LeBatard.
I am proudly downtown. I am proudly Circa. We had plenty of options on who we could partner with.
I'm going Tuesday to Saturday. The years that we don't have the Super Bowl, I don't go to the game. So I'm getting out of here. I'm actually going back to Cali. There's a casino out here called Yamava. That's where I'm going to watch it at.
Oh, haven't you watched a Super Bowl at Sylvester Stallone's house before?
No, we watch fights at
Okay.
Stallone's house. Why wouldn't I watch a fight at Rocky's house?
Yeah, my mistake.
Good point.
That is why Stugotz is jealous of your life.
Jealous.
Greg, what is it that you wanted to ask Jay Glazer?
Jay, we need a part 2 on Belichick's future. He's within 14 wins of Shula's all-time record for NFL wins. Is it conceivable he might not get the chance to set that record?
Man, I don't know. I don't know the answer to it. You guys know me. I like to deal in fact. I don't know the answer to it. I don't know what his decision's going to be. He may take a year off and go, oh man, I like this. Why do I need to go back and deal with this? He may sit there and go, no, I want to coach until, like Tom Moore, just keep going and going and going and going. I can't answer the question because I haven't talked to him about that.
Interesting that you would even have doubt, though, Jay. That seems sort of unfathomable to me that you would have doubt there.
No, but I don't know what he's going to want to do. Like, he may sit there in the offseason and go, man, I could get paid an awful lot of money to just go on TV and talk about it, and this is a much better life. And we've all seen coaches that have said, hey, we're done. I mean, Jimmy Johnson, right? We're done. And Bill Cowher, and you thought Gruden was going to go that route for a while, and it's just sitting there and go, man, this is a much better life. This is an easier life. This is fantastic. I just get to show up, hang out with my butt. And the great thing about doing sports on TV, guys, is you still have that locker room. It's great about our show. We've been there 30 years, but man, on Sundays we have that great locker room. So the guys don't really miss football because we have each other. We have that brotherhood.
Jay, if the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, do you think Andy Reid will retire?
So it's funny because I asked Andy that last year. We're sitting in his office, and he was like, "Yeah, I'll have to, answer that. I'll have to think about that." And then he forgot he told me that. And I'm like, we're sitting there on the field of the Super Bowl last year. I said exactly what he told me in his office. And he said, "When did I tell it to you?" I said, "We're sitting in your office last week." And he goes, "Oh, man." I said, "Oh, I don't remember." "Oh, okay. No, I don't doubt you, but man, yeah."
So basically, Andy Reid doesn't doubt Jay Glazer's report on Andy Reid's innermost thoughts.
From last week.
Correct. There was a lot going on with Andy that week. I was like, "Andy, what are you doing?" Oh, it was funny, because I remember going out there in the field talking to him, and he's like, "What, do you have me retiring?" I said, "No, I don't have to retire. What are you talking about?" And it was just me and him on the field, like over, and he was, I think, watching his offense, warm up, and he said, I said, "I didn't have you retire. What are you talking about?" He said, "Well, it's kind of been put out there." I said, "This is what you're doing before the game?" I said, "No, I didn't say you retired." I said exactly what you told me, which is, "Man, I'll have a decision to make after this, but you're having more fun than you've ever had, and just kind of this whole thing, and it did take on a life of its own. And he was like, me and him were sitting there like, dude, not only we talk about it, like I walked out your office and we talked about, because he has a place down in California, not far from me, up here, and what we do and all this stuff. And he's like, oh, all right, yeah, no, I believe you. I just got so much stuff going on. And I remember walking off the field too, Roger Goodell, like, hey, what are you doing in the middle of the field? I said, I'm talking to Andy. We're like having this whole thing about he's retiring, he's not retiring. Roger's kind of shaking his head like, whatever.
Oh, but now that you mention it, though, when you say a lot of stuff going on, because Andy Reid has dealt with a good deal of darkness with his kids, with being so professionally obsessed that, whatever happens to a father, because football keeps calling and stuff. And when you say a lot of stuff going on, his son, who worked for the Chiefs at the time, had a drunk driving accident that then has resulted in jail time. So some of this stuff was really hard on him. But can you tell us, as someone who knows Andy Reid, how he is, and who knows mental health stuff, how he has navigated these huge darknesses in his life while football pulls him away and requires him to be obsessed and not balanced?
Be honest with you, I don't feel comfortable repeating any conversations that we've had on that. That's his, that's one thing. Andy's one of my closest friends in the league. He's helped me through some really dark stuff. I've turned to him for advice dealing with stuff also, but I definitely don't feel comfortable repeating those kind of conversations.
Oh, but I'm not asking for the reporting. I'm asking from your perspective as someone who loves him and cares about him and sort of knows how difficult it is for a football man to be a family man because the leadership position requires so much insanity.
Well, and not only that, it requires so much time. And whenever, I think, when you're in this league and it takes so much of your time, it's funny, like I had a talk with Mike Tomlin about him not being able to go to certain things for his kids. Like his daughter is a gymnast, and she's an incredible gymnast, but that's a subjective sport. So he had to stop going to her gymnastic meets because, it could be held against her. And then he said, I actually told my kids, man, I know you didn't sign up for this scrutiny. And he got me thinking about it. I actually called my son, Sammy. I'm like, hey, man, I had never thought about it this way. But I said, I'm sorry that I bring, our kids aren't able to just be normal and struggle through it. They even have to be great because there are kids and they can't just go through your normal trajectory a lot of times of working your way up a ladder or struggling through something, and it's unfair attention to them. There's a lot that goes along with all this. And, I think for a guy like Andy too, and this is what the one good thing about sports, it gives you this great family support system when things do happen, and a great distraction for you when things happen as well. It's when you're on a football team, you do have, even though you're the leader and you got to kind of take care of everybody else, and that's harder on a lot of these guys. I always tell these other players and coaches, hey, these leaders got to take care of everybody else, but who takes care of them? You got to make sure that they're taken care of because they're lifting you up. But the great thing about a locker room is you do have 80 therapists sitting in there with you that you can just turn to on your right and your left every day if you're vulnerable enough and you can open up and lean into those people.
I know, Jay, that Deron Bland had 5 pick sixes this year, and I don't know how you do the measurement on great cornerback play, but L'Jarius Sneed, when I've watched him play, I can't imagine that a whole lot of people are better than him. So when I ask you, how does Jay Glazer measure who the best corners in the league are? Do you use Pro Football Focus? How do you make the measurements?
I actually use the guys who sit in our room, Fox NFL Sunday. I use Howie Long and Terry Bradshaw and Jimmy Johnson and Gronk and Stray. We always talk about this. But also, when you talk to coaches also, you hear how much they don't go to a side of the field because of cornerback or certain things they know are getting taken away because of a certain cornerback. And L'Jarius is as good as they get. That's, Bland had those numbers because they're pick sixes, and what Dan Quinn and Al Harris and them did with him is certainly incredible. But L'Jarius, I think, is, he was kind of like the the new Jalen Ramsey, if you will. So here's a perfect example. Jalen is a guy where he'll challenge other people in that locker room. He'll challenge the coaches. He's so incredibly smart. You could do things with him that you can't with a lot of other guys, and that's something that everybody else wouldn't know about. You know, how much he could also do that's separate. So a lot of it is how much you talk to guys. A lot of it is how much I get from those other guys sitting in the room. But no, I think L'Jarius is he's 1A.
L'Jarius Sneed was actually only ranked 17th, according to Pro Football Focus's final rankings of cornerbacks. He was actually behind McDuffie, his own teammate.
17th.
That would be my reaction too. Go ahead and give me, but I don't know how the measurements are done on this because I do find some of this stuff to be complicated. You have to factor in scheme. I do trust Pro Football Focus. Give me the list. Go up the list if you would, and who is number one on that list? Because Stugotz, you remember this.
He's one.
Jamarcus Chase. I'm sorry.
Jamar
Chase. My bad.
Well, you know what? I think Surtain's up there also, really high up.
Well, but Jamar Chase said when facing Kansas City, he said of McDuffie and Sneed, he said they don't have a Jalen Ramsey. He was trying to insult them. And I don't know where Jalen Ramsey is on this list, but Mike, what do you have there for the top 17?
Jalen was hurt for a lot of the year, so it's kind of hard, right? But I also know just what Jalen does, where there's certain things you could do with him because he's so damn smart that you can't do with other guys. And I'm sure that's not focused into any rankings.
I mean, they crunch film and everything like that. In fact, if you go to his
that's
overall,
film though. You got to talk to people too.
His grade rank is even in the 30s. So yeah, I feel like I'm not going to give you what you want.
Oh no, I just wanted to know who's number one. That's all. I want to know how they're ranking their top 5.
Sauce Gardner.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Jalen Johnson.
Yeah, Sauce Gardner. Yeah, Sauce is definitely up there. Absolutely. Yeah.
What can you
Sauce and Surtain are up there.
What can you tell me about the Detroit offensive line? Who were the best offensive lines that you saw this year? Because I was saying that on Sunday, the most impressive thing I saw was that line in the first half against San Francisco.
Oh man, they were just how much those guys like Penei Sewell, how he can move is ridiculous. I still think Philadelphia's offensive line is the best, which is why they can do that push for like freaking 17 yards per play. They're there. Yeah, Detroit's offensive line, they're building. And that's the thing, too. I know Detroit lost, but I don't think this is going to be this flash in the pan, and that's it. And I know Dan Campbell, I was even texting with him about it, saying, like, don't say it's just one and done, man. You guys are going to be in there for a long time because of what they're building, because of that culture that they're building in there. But that offensive line, building from there, man, that's those guys can move. They'll maul you. They played through injuries. They got everything you're looking for. They're right there.
We have less than 90 seconds left. Tell people what you're doing with Unbreakable. It is rebranding now. It's going from a mental health podcast to a mental wealth podcast, and it's where you're dedicating your energies, your life's work these days. Tell them what you're doing.
And our first guest will be a two-parter this week and next week is John Lynch, obviously the architect of this 49ers team is going to the Super Bowl. And you know what, man? I talked about mental health. I wrote a mental health book a couple of years ago to get us to have words so we could start having this conversation with each other because we need to walk this walk together. We got to be each other's teammates. And I think now that we did that, now I kind of want to take the fact that, all right, we understand it's out there. We know that what goes on between the ears is not something to be ashamed of. It's something we could talk about more. And now I just want to use this platform to start inspiring. Everybody who has done big things, they've gone through stuff. They all have an inspirational story. You guys, we talked about here, my deal's making $9,450 a year for 11 years, getting turned down over and over and over to get my first full-time job as an NFL insider. So I want to start having leaders of all different fields to find out what they've done between their ears, what's behind their rib cage, and use that and take some lessons from them. And I've already we did a lot of that when it was called mental health podcast. But I think mental health people are still like, all right, you're just talking about depression, anxiety. No. There's so much more that goes into it. Mental health is also building yourself up so you can build your mental wealth up so you can go make your dreams come true. So you can get through things, so you can overcome certain things. And, life is about the things that we overcome.
Jay, good seeing you. Unbreakable, a mental wealth podcast. We will see you in Vegas, sir.
See ya.